Chapter 7. My name is Barry Allen and I'm one of the fastest men alive. When I was a child, I saw my mother get killed by something impossible. My father went to prison for her murder. Then an accident made me the impossible. To the outside world, I'm an ordinary forensic scientist, but secretly I used my speed to fight crime and find other people like me. And one day, I'll find who killed my mother and get justice for my father. I am the Flash. Before the particle accelerator explosion, I had a very set belief of principles on how the world works. Rules like gravity kept people on the ground, the sun heated the planet, and theoretical elements were theoretical. After my parents' death, I gave up on my path in science, but after the particle accelerator explosion, my body changed in ways that I never imagined. It restarted my life and now I know what to do. I will use my speed to help Barry and everyone keep this city safe and make my parents proud. Meet Central City's newest speedster, Impulse. And the truth shall set you free. March 2015. Naruto, age 23. It had been about 2 weeks since the events that unfolded with Mizuki and the discovery of Naruto's unique new meta-human powers, his increasing super genius intelligence, and the death of his parents. Someone ordered Mizuki to kill his parents, and it was something so bad or important that it involved a cover-up. Orochimaru, who is one of the most feared and deadly criminals in the entire world, and a mysterious group that Orochimaru belongs to, known only as the Nine. Yeah, suffice it to say that the mood at Star Labs went down significantly. The team did everything they could to find any kind of lead on a group called the Nine, but there was nothing except for a few mentions in heavily redacted police and law enforcement files. And that was a very disconcerting sign. Naruto spent a lot of his free time digging up any kind of lead he could on the Nine, but he was getting nowhere. It was like this group didn't exist, and Naruto hoped that wasn't the case. And when he wasn't working on the case or digging up any new leads, he dove himself into his work on the arc reactor or any other inventions he could set his mind to. It got to the point where Naruto was fired from his brief internship at the CCPD because he was more focused on the things at Star Labs. Naruto was currently in his private workshop room in Star Labs going over the data on the arc reactor for the 30th time for the day, and he was hesitating. He overlooked the designs, and everything from the computer data read that the reactor was 100% ready to be turned on. Because of Naruto's drive to keep himself occupied, he actually managed to complete construction of the arc reactor by himself. The remaining 30% construction was done faster as his super speed, and with his new developing super genius brain, he solved any technical hurdles that arose. The arc reactor was built in a once empty space in the reactor ring, and it was connected to the Star Labs power lines. All that was left was for the reactor to be jump-started, and it would theoretically begin creating power for forever. He was at his desk looking at the computer screen with Mizuki's kunai in his right hand. He doesn't know why he kept it. Or actually he did, because when he finds Orochimaru he plans to use it. He spun the knife around his fingers as he looked at the data on the arc reactor. He stopped and held the knife in reverse grip before stabbing it into the desk next to the computer. He rubbed his face and looked at the monitor as all the data from the scans showed that if the arc reactor turned on there wouldn't be any problems, side effects, or negative repercussions. Naruto. He heard and turned to see Caitlin there at the door. Hey, Caitlin, he said as she walked over to him. Is something wrong? No, everything fine upstairs. I just wanted to check up on you. You've been keeping to yourself the past 2 weeks. Caitlin said. It's of my own choice. Naruto said, and his response made her look at him funny. I just wanted some time to myself. I didn't want any of you near me if I lose it again. You've been fine for the past 2 weeks. Caitlin said. Linda says you've been throwing yourself into your work. I wanted to keep myself busy. I can't lose control again if I'm too busy working on something else. He stated. Did she send you down here? No, she was worried too. He heard and saw Linda at the door. Naruto, you've been different ever since. I know. Naruto said so she didn't have to finish her sentence. It was on purpose. I'm just trying to get back to some semblance of how I used to be, and I figured it'd be best to keep focused on science things to get me there. It helped. Really? Linda asked. A little. Naruto said. I've searched every single law enforcement database in the world and the only thing I've gotten on the 9 is just whispers, redacted files, and cover-ups. I'm nowhere closer to finding the organization responsible for orchestrating my parents' death than when I started. We'll find something, Naruto, you know we will. Linda said to him. I know we can because before we didn't even know about Mizuki or that a cover-up even existed. I know everyone here would rather believe in fact and science, but I'm betting on fate here. It's fate that drew me to you that day in jitters, and I know that fate is on your side and will bring you closer to finding out who killed your parents. She walked over and held his hand and kissed it, which brought a small smile to his face. And I'll be there to help save you from the darkness you're so afraid of. She said. We all will. Caitlin said as Naruto smiled. Thank you, both. Yes, I just needed to hear it. Naruto said. Linda kissed him on the cheek and looked at the computer. So, what have you been working on down here? Linda asked as she saw his workstation, and pretty much every single usable space in the room was littering with tools, papers of calculations, building material, and gadgets. Naruto smiled at Linda as he looked at everything he'd built. A lot of stuff. Stuff that will help Dr. Wells and Star Labs get back into the world. Cutting-edge defense technology, new suppression weapons for the police. I'm even working on meta-human power dampening cuffs for them to use, but it's still a work in progress. One thing I am finished with though is this. Naruto got up, walked in over to an item in the corner of the room that was covered in a tarp. Why the tarp? Caitlin asked. So it doesn't get dusty. Naruto said as Caitlin gave him a look. Cisco designed Barry's flash suit, and my impulse suit was something my dad left behind. And seeing as how you are also a meta and you did an awesome job in saving my butt and stopping Daniels, that maybe you deserve one as well. You made me a suit? Linda asked, excited about the thought of having her own suit. I did. Seeing as how we've gotten into a pattern of things here at Star Labs, then it's more than certain that it's only a matter of time before we need you to save my butt again. So, why not do it in style? Naruto took off the tarp to reveal Linda's suit, and once they saw it, Linda and Caitlin were struck in awe. The suit was made up of a polymer composite material and resembled something similar to a combat suit, but was sleek and form-fitting. It was colored black, white, and silver with a high-tech tinted mask over the eyes and rested on her nose. The suit was mainly black except for the boots, belt, gloves and shoulder pads, which were colored white. The belt had a sash-like belt with a silver belt symbol of a star, and the star symbol was also on the chest area, and the white color popped against the black. The star symbol then bled outward with a line pattern that angled outward, across her arms and then circled around to loop together in her back. 1. What do you think? Naruto asked, and Linda was frozen a bit in shock. It's incredible, Linda said as she walked up to her suit. How did you make it? Caitlin asked. It was a bit of a challenge considering Linda's powers, but I managed something that should work. The bulk of the suit is made out of fiberglass fabric-coated nylon with a mixture of Nomex and silicate, so the suit is heat-resistant to a degree. So when Linda uses her powers, the heat generated at her palms or wherever shouldn't burn through the material. I also added in a layer of flexible Kevlar so the suit is bulletproof to a degree. The mask is form-fitted to Linda's face and will tint to help protect her from the brightness of her lights, while the gloves are built with a cobalt resin carbon foam to protect her from heat and with specialized energy absorption circuitry to help her focus her light blasts through the palm base in the gloves. She channels the lights in her palms and it helps focus her light wherever she wants. It's a temporary fix as the data suggests that once Linda's more comfortable with her powers, she won't need the gloves to help her. Naruto said, but Linda was too busy ogling her suit to pay attention. I didn't get any of that, Linda said. She walked over to Naruto and kissed him as he kissed back, feeling better than before and a bit like his old self. Thank you, Naruto. You're welcome, Linda, he replied. So, if Linda does go back out there, what should we call her? Any names? Caitlin wondered. I'm sure Cisco will come up with something, Linda said. I've got two in my head already. Photon, Naruto said as Caitlin and Linda thought about it. Not bad. What else you got? Linda asked. Okay, how about binary? Naruto asked. Binary, like binary star system? Caitlin asked. A system with two stars orbiting around a common center, and when viewed by the untrained eye, look like a single point of light. That single point of light, being you, Linda Park. The woman who has done more to help me in the last year than most. Naruto said, and Linda's heart swelled up and kissed him. I love you. I love you too, she said as Caitlin decided to give the two a moment. I think this is the first time we've actually said the I love you. It felt right, Naruto said, kissing her one more time. Linda, I want you to promise me something. What? She asked. If I go down a dark place and come back a monster, I want you to stop me. Naruto told her. Naruto, that won't happen. She told him. Linda, promise me. Naruto said to her, wanting her to promise him that she would do it. Mizuki was right about one thing. Finding out the truth about who killed my parents may very well drive me down a path I won't come back from. If that happens, I don't care what it takes, promise me you'll stop me. I could never live with myself if I got you or the others hurt or worse. Promise me. I promise, Linda said as she kissed him. That won't happen. You may think you have darkness inside of you, but it's a small speck. The light inside your heart outshines that darkness every single day. We all have darkness inside us, Naruto, but so long as you remember what's important to you, then that darkness will never take you over. And you have me, your own lightning rod. I thought you didn't like that nickname. Naruto asked and saw Linda had a small smirk on her face. I'm starting to warm up to it. The suit you made me is certainly doing thing to help. Linda said as she kissed him and Naruto kissed back. She reached her hands up and ran them through his hair as Naruto pulled her closer, his hands resting on her waist. You know, we are alone here. Really? Now? Naruto asked as Linda smirked and kissed him again, taking off her jacket. No time like the present. Besides, like I told you before, I hate taking things slow. She said, kissing him again and began unbuttoning his shirt. Naruto reached down and picked her up by her rear as Linda wrapped her legs around his waist and he brought her over to a table. Thank God there was no one else on that floor because that would have been embarrassing. Naruto and Linda wouldn't be seen by the others for the rest of the day as they were busy, and Naruto then had to do some cleaning and disinfecting in his lab. The next day, Naruto was in a considerably better mood than the one he's been in the past 2 weeks thanks to the talk he had with Linda. With her by his side, he was a little surer of himself. He was currently in the cortex and using the computer to run some last-minute data on jump-starting the arc reactor. He was eating a big belly burger as he looked at the data when he heard some noise behind him and saw Dr. Wells stroll in. Dr. Wells. Naruto put his burger down and wiped his mouth. It's all right, Naruto. I understand the pull of a big belly burger more than anyone. He said as he strolled over next to Naruto. I'm glad to see you back to a semblance of normalcy for you. Guess it took a while to get there. Thanks for giving me some space. Naruto said and Dr. Wells nodded. Of course. Dr. Wells then looked at the data on the screen to see complex math, science, and engineering and knew Naruto's super brain was getting an excellent workout. What project are you working on? Just finishing some data on jump-starting the arc reactor. Naruto said, looking at the data on the computer. It's finished construction, so all that's left is to give it a jumpstart and pray our math is right and the reactor works. Excellent work, Dr. Wells said as he looked over the data and everything seemed to be ready. Well, if you feel comfortable then let's get the arc reactor online. I'll prepare everything on this end. Head down to the electrical system and transmission lines and add in an electrical rerouter. Right. Naruto went over to the engineering lab and got to work on the electrical rerouter. When placed on the power and electrical lines, it would reroute the power back to the central city power plant and put Star Labs off the grid. Once the rerouter was finished, he went down to the basement of Star Labs and found the main electrical and power lines. He put the electrical rerouter on the transmission lines and set up the remote to activate when he was ready. He went back up to the cortex and began setting up everything he needed to get the arc reactor online while Dr. Wells finished any last-minute adjustments on the computer. Dr. Wells was at the computer finishing up the adjustments when Barry, Cisco, Caitlin, and Linda walked into the cortex. Hey, Dr. Wells. Busy with something? Barry asked. Actually, I'm helping Naruto with something we've been working on for quite a while. Dr. Wells told them. Some kind of new meta tech? Barry asked when Naruto walked out from a room. Nope. The arc reactor, Naruto said as he came into the room with a tool case and put it down on a table. Since everyone's here, I just want to take the chance to thank all of you for giving me my space the past 2 weeks. No problem. How are you doing? Barry asked. As good as could be expected considering everything. But, I'm working through it by keeping myself busy. Naruto said. They weren't sure about keeping him busy part, but he did seem better. And what kind of things have you been working on? Barry asked. Well, probably the biggest would be that the arc reactor is ready to be turned on. Naruto told them. Seriously? Cisco asked as Naruto nodded. See for yourself. Naruto motioned to the computers as they saw the complete outline of the arc reactor along with video camera footage of it in the completely built and nestled in its section of the reactor ring. The reactor's ready to be turned on. All we need to do is jumpstart it, and if my calculations are right, then the reactor will generate enough energy to power all of Central City. Really? Barry asked, but Naruto motioned him not to get too excited. Yup, although the rights, legal footprints and everything we need to do that will take time, but what we can do now is power all of Star Labs. I've set up everything we need to reroute all the power and electricity back to the Central City power plant, so we can go off the grid. Naruto told them. Awesome. Let's get this thing on and watch my boyfriend make science history. Linda said. This is going to be a massive news story. And something tells me I'll be able to score an exclusive with the genius behind it. You'll be able to score a lot more than that. Naruto replied with a wink as Linda smirked while the others just felt uncomfortable. Naruto then noticed and stood up and cleared his throat. Sorry, guys. Anyway, everything's ready to be turned on. All we need to do is jumpstart the palladium ring reaction with enough energy. Yeah, the same amount of energy that Star Labs goes through in a month. Hope you saved up for that with a massive battery. Cisco said. Fear not, Cisco, because I figured out a way to circumvent that. Follow me, Naruto said, and they all followed him from the cortex to the speed training room and saw the cosmic treadmill was modified with a lot of extra power lines, a modified electrical generator and equipment. What did you do to my baby? Cisco asked, wondering what happened to it. Don't worry, Cisco. I'll remove all the equipment when we're done, but your treadmill is how we're going to jumpstart the arc reactor. I figured, why not use up a ready supply of energy that we have right here? Naruto said, which made everyone confused until it finally clicked for Cisco. Kinetic energy. You rigged up the treadmill to absorb the kinetic electrical energy you generate when you run, and you want to use that to jumpstart the arc reactor. Cisco said. Ding, ding, ding. Cisco gets the prize. Roughly about 5 minutes on the treadmill should give us enough kinetic energy to jumpstart the reaction, and then we're in business. And it's a good thing you're here, Barry, because it'll be you running on the treadmill. Naruto said as Barry gave him a look. Me? Why me? Barry asked. Well, we'll need an Energizer rabbit to make this thing happen, and I'll need to be at the computers to make sure everything works. And we're not fast enough to be in 2 places at once, so it's you. Naruto told him. I hope you haven't skipped leg day. Barry got changed into sweats and stood on the treadmill while everyone else was at the cortex. Naruto and Dr. Wells were at the computers to ensure that everything happened as it was designed to. Okay, Barry starting running. Naruto shouted into the intercom, so Barry began running on the cosmic treadmill and quickly shot up to his top speed of about Mach 1.5. Barry kept running as the conduits attached to the treadmill began transferring the energy through cable lines to the arc reactor chamber. Naruto looked at the monitor and read the energy readings were nice and steady and slowly began increasing. The energy moved down to the arc reactor chamber and began energizing the reactor ring and the chemical reaction within the palladium ring. The reaction within the ring has commenced. Dr. Wells said as he read the energy levels. Energy levels are rising and housing ring is holding perfectly. Nice. Naruto watched the progression of the palladium reaction go up to about 20%. Keep it up, Barry. Can I just say that I really hate this? Barry shouted as he kept running on the treadmill. Duly noted, Flash. Now kick it up a notch. Naruto shouted back and Barry did and tried to run faster. They kept monitoring the arc reactor as more and more energy powered up the palladium ring and the reaction was getting stronger and stronger. Soon enough, Barry generated more than enough energy and the reaction was ready for the reactor to turn on and be taken off the grid. All right, this is it. Get ready to turn the reactor on. Naruto said and Dr. Wells was standing by. I'm ready. Dr. Wells said so Naruto typed in a few commands. Now, Naruto said and Dr. Wells hit the enter key and the palladium ring immediately began powering up the arc reactor and soon became self-sustaining and producing energy. I'm taking us off the grid and switching us to the arc reactor, now. Naruto pressed another set of buttons that immediately cut the power from the transmission lines and switched over to the arc reactor. The lights flickered a bit like there was a power surge but then seemed to go back to normal. Naruto looked over the system and the arc reactor was running smoothly and putting out about 3% of its projected power, which was more than enough to power all of Star Labs and the containment cells in the particle accelerator ring. Arc reactor is up and running. How are the energy levels? Naruto asked and Dr. Wells looked them over. Energy levels are holding steady. Arc reactor palladium ring holding strong and energy output at 3%. Dr. Wells said as Naruto nodded. Good. More than enough for all of Star Labs. Naruto said as Barry walked back into the cortex. So, did we do it? Barry asked. I believe we did. Naruto said as there was a brief moment of silence. Yeah, they all shouted as Naruto, Linda, Caitlin, Cisco, and Barry jumped and did a massive group hug at the extraordinary achievement they just witnessed. You did it, Naruto. Dr. Wells said and Naruto smiled. We did it, Naruto said as he hugged him, and Dr. Wells hugged back. The arc reactor is officially online. Naruto, you just became the leading innovator in clean energy. This is huge, Caitlin said. So, what's next? Barry asked. Well, I'll closely monitor all the systems to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Just because it's running fine now doesn't mean we won't have an issue. Naruto said as Cisco walked up to Naruto and reached up to put his arm around him. We'll worry about that when the time comes, but right now, we celebrate what you just did. We're going out. Let's go, Cisco shouted, as he and Barry pushed him out of the cortex and the group went out to celebrate Naruto's achievement. At that moment in Star Labs, it was a massive marker on Naruto's life and what his future could hold. Line break XXXXX. With the success of the arc reactor being turned on and actually working, Dr. Wells instructed Naruto on the steps to apply for a non-provisional utility and design patent application along with an international application patent. Dr. Wells was familiar with the process as he had gone through it dozens of times over the years for everything he's created, so he helped Naruto gather everything he needed. Seeing as how they did all their own research into energy production, they were confident that the initial process wouldn't take that long. Dr. Wells got in touch with his lawyer who would help expedite the process, and once the patent office approved it and put the application into patent pending status, they would be able to go public and begin moving forward. While the patent would take easily up to a year to be approved, Naruto would still be able to move forward with his work, and once he got the patent, no other company, scientist, or government official could use or copy his invention without being sued. 2 days after Naruto's monumental moment of finishing the arc reactor, he, Linda, Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin walked into Jitters to get some coffee, and they were talking about Barry's recent date with Naruto's college friend Ino. The two went out to a nice dinner, got coffee, and it ended with a very steamy kiss, which was lucky given that Barry was called away twice to deal with a convenience store robbery and an attempted suicide jumper. Dude, you're a crime-fighting, lady-slaying machine, Cisco said as he and Barry high-fived. Oh, God, it was so awesome. She was so cool. We're going on another date tonight, Barry said as they walked up to the second floor to get a table. Really? Again, tonight? Wow, Ino must really like you because she would never give a guy another date unless he was worth it. Naruto told him. Aren't you worried about moving too fast? Cisco asked. No, what do you mean? It's a second date. Barry pointed out. No, I meant going too fast, hurrying. Cisco tried to insinuate. Look, I mean you're fast, but there's fast, and then there's fast. Am I being subtle enough? Okay, stop Cisco. Naruto stopped him when they got to their table. We are not having this conversation again. Again, Linda asked. When did you have this conversation the first time? When you and Naruto first started dating. Cisco said but stopped when Naruto sent him a death glare. And I'm going to stop talking now. Oh, really? Well, that's not an issue. Linda replied, causing Naruto to cough into his hand as the entire conversation got awkward. Okay, we're never having this conversation again. Agreed, Naruto said and everyone nodded. Agreed, they replied. I'll be fine. It's just a second date. Barry said when Iris had overheard them. She was sitting at a table of her own, working on her laptop. A second date? With who? She asked. Ino Yamanaka. She's an old college friend of Naruto's. I met her at a bar. Barry said as Cisco got a call on his phone which he answered. Yeah, she greats and she liked Barry seeing as how she already wants a second date. Naruto said. Wow, that's great. You're great, and if Naruto's friend with her and then she's going to be great, so, great. Iris said and everyone noticed the kind of awkwardness with that sentence. Hey, I got to go. I've got to help out a friend. Cisco said as he left. Everything okay? We just got here. Barry said. Yeah, I'll see you later. Cisco left when Linda's attention was put on the screen where the news was reporting about a physicist Quentin Quayle who was attacked at Concordance Research Labs last night. Hey, guys. Linda motioned to the screen as they watched the report and how the news said there were sightings of the so-called Burning Man after the attack. Burning Man? Caitlin, weren't you asking about him a few weeks ago? Iris asked as Barry, Naruto, Linda, and Caitlin shared an uneasy look. Naruto got a text on his phone from Dr. Wells saying come to Star Labs now. Hey, Caitlin, we've got to go, Naruto said. I'll see you at work, Iris. Linda said and Iris nodded. I got to head out too, Barry said, leaving a confused Iris. They went back to Star Labs and gathered in the Cortex with the newsreel and every possible bit of information on Ronnie, Professor Stein and what happened to Quentin Quayle on the monitors. Well, it appears letting Ronnie roam free is no longer an option. Dr. Wells told them. He's not even Ronnie anymore. He's Martin Stein walking around in Ronnie's body, like a vampire. Caitlin said. More like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Linda said as Naruto looked at her. Cisco's not the only one who watched one too many sci-fi movies growing up. Is there a reason that Stein is in control of Ronnie's body and not the other way around? Barry asked. Well, when the Firestorm Matrix fused them together into the Burning Man, it most likely took the best parts of each person to make a strong host. Ronnie's young and has a healthy body while Professor Stein has the superior brain. Darwinism at work, Naruto suggested and Dr. Wells agreed. Naruto's theory holds the most weight and given his familiarity with Project Firestorm it's the most likely scenario. In any event, he badly hurt an innocent man and we have hunted meta-humans for less. Caitlin, we need to know that you're on board with what needs to happen here. Dr. Wells said but Caitlin had trouble answering that. How do we find him? Caitlin asked. Quentin Quayle, the scientist that was attacked, is a former colleague of Martin Stein. If Martin is indeed in control of Ronnie's body, he may be trying to figure out exactly what happened to him. Dr. Wells said. That's most likely true. Concordance Research Lab is supposed to specialize in energy research. Linda added, causing them all to look at her. I had to help a co-worker edit an article on the labs and I remember reading that. It makes the most sense. He'd want to go to someone he could trust with something like this and who would remember him in the new body. Naruto said. Okay, so what do we know about him? I don't even know what Stein looks like. Barry said so. Naruto pressed a few buttons on the computer to bring up Stein's photo from Hudson University website. That's Stein. I've seen him before. When? Caitlin asked. On the train the day the accelerator exploded. Barry said, telling them about that day and his conversation with Professor Stein. That sounds like the professor. If we're going to find him, we should talk to someone who knows him the best, and that would be his wife, Clarissa. Naruto said, and they agreed, so decided to go pay her a visit. Linda went back to work while Naruto, Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Barry went to pay Clarissa a visit. Naruto knocked on the door and a few seconds later Clarissa answered. Yes. She asked. Hello, Mrs. Stein. My name is Naruto Namikaze. This is Dr. Harrison Wells, and Caitlin Snow with Star Labs, and this is Barry Allen with the Central City Police Department. We're here to talk to you about your husband, Martin Stein. Do you have a moment? He asked as she nodded. Of course, come in. She replied, letting them in. You said your name was Naruto. You wouldn't happen to be one my husband's former students, would you? Yes I am. How did you know that? Naruto asked. Oh, Martin often spoke about you in passing, about how you were one of his few students who seemed to grasp the subject he was teaching. He always spoke highly of you. He even told me that he wanted to bring you onto his research team, but then you dropped out. She said as Naruto nodded. Yeah, I went through a family loss at that moment and school was the last thing on my mind. He replied. But I've gotten my life back in order and I'm actually working at Star Labs and we're working with the CCPD on your husband's disappearance. The Conway Prize for Scientific Advancement. Dr. Wells said as he looked at 3 of the awards on a desk. Martin was very proud of that one. Clarissa replied. I'd always hoped to win one of these myself. Oh, and look at that, he won it 3 times. Dr. Wells said as Naruto chuckled. It takes a special kind of mind to make Dr. Wells jealous. Naruto said. Oh, Martin had a talent for making people jealous. Even me, she said as Barry looked at her weird. I sometimes think Martin loved his theorems and experiments more than he did me. I'm sure that's not true. Caitlin told her. And it's not. Naruto said as Clarissa looked at him. Whenever we were in class and Professor Stein would go off on a tangent, he'd often speak about you. I once asked him what his greatest scientific achievement was, and he told me that despite all his awards and accolades, the one thing that gave his life meaning was marrying you. He cared more about you than I think he showed. Clarissa smiled at this as it made it a little easier. So, you haven't heard from your husband since he's disappeared? Barry asked. No, she replied as Barry took out a photo. What about this man? Barry showed her the photo of Ronnie and Clarissa remembered seeing him. Yes, I have, Clarissa replied. Who is he? Someone we think knows what happened to your husband. When did you last see him? Naruto asked. I started getting the feeling that someone was watching me, and sometimes I still do. And about a month after Martin disappeared, that young man showed up here. Clarissa told them, explain how he got in using the spare key under a loose stone and began spouting nonsense. When she called the police, he ran away. He knew where I kept my spare key, the one I kept for Martin. Because he remembers. Naruto said. Mrs. Stein, I can say with certainty that your husband is alive. What? Clarissa didn't expect to hear that. Naruto. Dr. Wells stopped him, but Naruto motioned him to let him finish. It's all right, Dr. Wells. Naruto told him. Your husband is alive, but he's changed. What do you know of Professor Stein's work on Firestorm? How do you know about that? My husband kept his work on Firestorm a secret, she said as Naruto nodded. With good reason. It's not a coincidence that your husband disappeared the night of the accelerator explosion when he went to see Dr. Wells about Firestorm. In fact, it's probably the reason he's been gone. Naruto said, but she was confused. I wish I could explain this to you fully, but to be honest, you'd probably think I'm crazy. I've spent my life married to a nuclear physicist. Believe me, crazy has become normal. Clarissa said. Believe me, not like this crazy. But I can tell you that if my hunch is right, then you will meet your husband soon. he said, motioning the others to leave. A lot of bad things have happened since the particle accelerator explosion, but I promise you that we'll do our best to get you your husband back. Clarissa nodded as they left her house and stopped on her driveway to talk. You sure it was a wise idea to tell her all that? Dr. Wells asked. I didn't tell her much, but she deserved to know that her husband was alive. Besides, I think I have an idea on how we can get Professor Stein to listen to us, and we know where he'll be. Naruto said, gesturing to the home. It's a gamble, Naruto. Dr. Wells told him as Naruto looked at the house and saw Clarissa in the window. More of a leap of faith. Naruto replied with a smile. Professor Stein and Ronnie have something in common besides sharing a body. They both feel the need to protect the women they love. Ronnie stopped the reverse flash from possibly hurting Caitlin, and Professor Stein's been watching over Clarissa. Well, it appears we have a stakeout, Dr. Wells said. But Barry's got a date tonight. Caitlin said. I'll cancel. Barry told him. No, it's fine. I'll be here. I have a personal connection with Professor Stein which might make it easier for him to listen to me, and I also have a girlfriend who knows about me being a superhero, whereas if you screw up a second date with Ino you can bet you won't get a third. Naruto told him. Don't worry, Barry. There's two of us. I handle this while you take the night off. You've done it for me plenty of times, so enjoy yourself. All right, but call me if you need me, Barry said as he super sped away. You're growing more mature every day, Naruto. I'm impressed, Dr. Wells said. I'd hold that thought. I still eat sugary cereal with Cisco, Naruto joked as Caitlin and Dr. Wells chuckled. Barry got ready for his date with Ino, wearing some nice jeans, a blue sweater with a gray undershirt. He finished getting ready when he heard the door knocked and opened it to see Ino wearing a lovely low-cut purple shirt with a black jacket and a nice-fitting black pants with matching heels, and her hair was done up in its signature ponytail style. Hey, wow, you look great, he said, and Ino smiled. Well, I have a date tonight and I wanted to impress the guy, she told him as Barry chuckled. Well, I can say that the guy is super impressed, Barry replied, letting her in, and she got a good look at his home. Oh, this place is so cute. You live here by yourself? Ino asked. Not exactly, I grew up here. Is it still kind of weird that I live at home? He asked as she chuckled. Maybe, but you're too cute that I'll let it slide, she replied, causing him to chuckle. All right, so here's the plan for tonight. First, a dinner reservation at Paperclip, then a round of min golf followed up by Mal Duncan, who's playing at an underground jazz club, but my foster dad has a connection there so he hooked us up. And if you're not sick of me by then, we can get froyo, Barry said. Nothing more romantic than mini golf and froyo, Ino replied. She and Barry left for their date. They arrived at Paperclip and Barry checked his reservation while Ino quickly went to the bathroom. The hostess had Barry wait a few minutes while he checked on a free table, and with Ino in the bathroom, he texted Naruto and Caitlin if everything was okay. He stood around in the entrance of the restaurant as couples left while others arrived and were waiting for their table. His phone went off and it was a text from Naruto replying, everything fine, still haven't seen Professor Stein. Barry texted okay and to text him if there was an emergency. Barry, he heard as he turned and saw Iris and Eddie walk into the restaurant. Hey, Barry, Eddie greeted him and Barry put his phone away. Eddie, Iris, hi. What are you guys doing here? Barry asked. We were just about to ask you the same thing, Iris replied as Eddie quickly went to check in for their dinner reservation. Oh, I'm here with someone. Hey, sorry about that. Barry turned and Ino walked up to him. Is our table ready yet? Just about, Barry said when Eddie walked over. Since you're here I can make some introductions. Ino, this is Iris West and her boyfriend, Eddie Thon. Iris and I grew up together and I work with Eddie. Eddie, Iris, meet Ino Yamenka. Hi, it's nice to meet you both. Ino shook both their hands as Eddie and Iris did the same. Nice to meet you too. Barry spoke about you before, so it's nice to put a face to the name, Iris said. Really? I hope he said good things, Ino commented. I did, don't worry, he replied. So, How long have you two been together? Eddie asked. Actually, this is our second date. Eno replied when the hostess came over. Mr. Allen, your table is ready. The hostess told him and Barry nodded. I apologize for the delay, Mr. Thon, but we're very busy tonight. Oh, that's all right. Eddie said. Well, you two enjoy your evening. Eno said as she and Barry were escorted to their table. Iris watched the two sit at their table and talk to one another, having a good time, and she couldn't explain it, but a weird feeling was coming over her. Back with Naruto, he along with Caitlin and Dr. Wells were staking out the professor's home, and if their hunch was right, he would show up tonight to watch over her. Naruto had gotten them dinner, which was of course, Big Belly Burger. Naruto sat in the back of the Star Labs van with a tablet, going over some designs of the energy cells for the arc reactor and monitoring the arc reactor energy levels and status. Want some of my fries? Dr. Wells asked Caitlin as she watched the house and didn't see anything. Dr. Wells ate some more fries before picking up his soda and taking a sip. Why would Professor Stein come back here? Caitlin asked. Because this is his home. Dr. Wells replied, stuffing more French fries into his mouth. I don't mean the actual house. I mean Clarissa. She's his home and we all want to go home again. You know, where we feel safe, where we feel loved. Ronnie's, your home. Not anymore. Caitlin said. Don't say that, Caitlin. Naruto put down his tablet and leaned over so she could see him. I promised you that I'd do everything I can to help you get Ronnie back, and I'm still keeping that promise. I know the fact that he's merged with someone else is crazy, but crazy has become the new normal. If you still believe he's in there, then I'm not giving up. Naruto's right. Do you remember what I told you on your first day at Star Labs? Dr. Wells asked. A scientist's work is never finished. Caitlin replied. A scientist's work is never finished. Well, my work did this to Ronnie and did this to Martin Stein. But it's not finished, and it won't be until we bring them both home. Dr. Wells told her when they heard some noise and saw a ball of fire fly above them towards the house. Right on time. God, I love being right. Naruto put his tablet down and opened the door to the van. Stay here. I'll talk to him. You sure about this, Naruto? Dr. Wells asked as Naruto shook his head. Absolutely not. Wish me luck. Naruto closed the door to the van and ran over to the house to see Clarissa open the front door. Naruto, what are you doing here? Did you hear that? She asked, probably referring to the noise Firestorm made when he flew over the house. That's your husband, Naruto told her as she was confused. I'll explain later, just stay here for now. Naruto ran to the back of the house and saw Ronnie, Professor Stein, standing there, looking inside. Professor Stein, Naruto shouted as he turned around and saw him. Leave me alone, he shouted back. Professor, it's me, Naruto Namikaze. I was your student 2 years ago. He shouted, and Ronnie Stein stopped. I was your student at Hudson University and you helped me with my final thesis on hydrogen energy fuel cells. After our first semester together my freshman year, you asked why I wanted to pursue science, and I told because it was something that I was passionate about, it was in my DNA, and because I wanted to help people, and you told me that science is a beautiful gift to humanity and we shouldn't distort it. Ronnie Stein turned around to face him and looked at Naruto. When I asked you what was the one thing you were never able to figure out, you told me that in all your life of research and discovery, the one mystery that brings two people together through love is still the province of magic. Ronnie Stein finished the quote as Naruto nodded. You shouldn't be here, Naruto. Go away. Ronnie Stein shouted. I can help you, Professor. I've been at Star Labs for months, so we can help you. Help you get your life back. Naruto shouted. Naruto, what's going on? They heard as Clarissa walked out to the backyard. Get her away. Ronnie Stein shouted. Professor, I can help you get your life back. Mrs. Stein, I know how crazy it must sound, but that's your husband. Project Firestorm and the particle accelerator did that to him, and I can help him if he comes with me. Naruto said, but Clarissa couldn't believe what Naruto was telling her. Ask him a question. Ask him something only Professor Stein could answer. Martin, if you're in there, what's my favorite color? Clarissa asked as Ronnie Stein turned to her. You could never decide, so you chose stripes. Ronnie Stein replied, causing Clarissa to gasp in shock and stepped forward while he stepped back. You shouldn't see me like this. I see you, Martin. Naruto said he can help you. Let him, she said as Ronnie Stein looked at him. Please, help us, he said and Naruto nodded. Line break XXXXX. The next morning, Barry and Ino met up for breakfast at Jitters. Their date went great last night excluding the fact that Barry vanished for about 15 minutes because he had to deal with a bank robbery while Naruto and the others met with Professor Stein. Other than that it was great so Ino figured some coffee and pastries before they went off to work would be fun. They were sitting at a table, drinking coffee as Barry told her a funny story when Iris walked in and saw Barry and the Ino girl talking. Hey, Barry. Iris walked over to them as Ino and Barry saw her. Iris, hey, what's up? He asked. Just getting my caffeine fix before work. What about you two? Iris asked. Just some time before I have to head to the conservatory. Ino said. Ino's a botanist with the Central City Conservatory, meaning she knows everything about plant life on the planet. Barry said and Ino chuckled. He's exaggerating a little bit. My job is mostly just organizing and categorizing plants for research. Ino said. Wow, it looks like you two have a lot in common. Iris said as Barry and Ino smiled at one another. Yeah, well it's a good thing Naruto's got such good taste in friends because Barry is a catch. Ino said causing Barry to blush a bit and Iris feigned a smile. Barry then got a text on his phone from Naruto saying they had Ronnie Stein at Star Labs. Hey, Ino, I've got to head out now. There's a police emergency. Barry said as he grabbed his jacket. Sure, no problem. I'll see you later, Ino said. Barry kissed her on the cheek and left. See you later. Bye Iris. Barry left as Ino sipped her coffee and Iris sat down next to her. So, Ino, Barry said you and Naruto are friends? She asked. Yeah, we went to college together. One thing about Naruto is that he can make friends very easily. He's just one of those people that when you meet you know he'll be a good friend. Ino said as Iris agreed. You're right. I've only met Naruto a few times but, he's got one of those personalities. She replied. And it was a bonus in college because Naruto attracted the right kind of people as friends. Barry is one of them. Ino said. You and he are best friends, right? The best of friends. Iris replied. So, has Barry had a lot of experience dating? Ino asked and Iris was a bit confused by her question. Because the dates we've been on he seems like he knows exactly what he's doing and then other times it's like it's his first time. I don't know, he's, Barry. Iris put it as best she could. Sounds a lot like the answer I got whenever I was curious about Naruto's unusual interactions and creative hijinks. Ino said as Iris chuckled. What was his last girlfriend like? You know, he hasn't had a girlfriend in a while. Iris said and Ino nodded. I don't know, maybe he's just not ready yet. What do you mean? Ino asked. You know, I mean he was into someone, an unrequited love thing. He had feelings for someone, and they weren't really reciprocated. Iris said in a tone that Ino recognized and knew she was the one Barry was into. I'd just give him some time. He'll get better. Sure, Ino said, thinking about the whole thing, and needed someone to talk to about this. Ronnie Stein accompanied Naruto, Caitlin, and Dr. Wells to Star Labs where they gave him a large dosage of medicine to help him clear his mind and get some sleep. Naruto and Dr. Wells stayed up late going over the scans and readings of Professor Stein to figure out how best to help him. They all met up in the Cortex next morning to discuss how to move forward. Barry walked in to see Caitlin, Dr. Wells, and Naruto hard at work. Hey, Barry, how was your date last night? Caitlin asked. Great. Thanks again for covering for me, Naruto. Barry said and Naruto nodded. I still can't believe you got Professor Stein to come here. How'd you do that? I just spoke to him. Took a leap of faith. Naruto replied as Dr. Wells smiled. So, now what do we do? Barry asked. I spoke to Professor Stein last night about what he thinks we should do, given he created Firestorm, and he thinks that it might be possible to separate him and Ronnie using nuclear fission. Naruto said. What do you think, Dr. Wells? Caitlin asked. What do I think? It is possible, theoretically. But splitting an atom and splitting a man are two very different things. Dr. Wells said as Ronnie Stein walked in, having been given a fresh pair of clothes, shower, and a haircut. I don't suppose it's necessary to point out you're all staring. Ronnie Stein asked. Sorry, Professor Stein. Naruto apologized for the group. It is remarkable. I feel clearer than I have since the accident. What did you give me? Ronnie Stein asked. A cocktail of antipsychotics, depressants, and mood stabilizers. Dr. Wells told him. The same formula used to treat dissociative identity disorder. Ronnie Stein said, looking at Caitlin. I assume this was your idea. Very clever, Kate. Please don't call me that. Caitlin said. I apologize. Ronnie Stein said to her. We'd like to run some tests on you. Caitlin said and he nodded. Of course, Dr. Snow. Ronnie Stein replied as she escorted him to one of the labs. Naruto's phone went off and it was Ino. Hey, Ino. What's up? Naruto asked and Barry perked up hearing Ino's name. Hey, Naruto. Sorry for calling out of the blue but I could use someone to talk to and I remember you used to be the shoulder to cry on in our group of friends. Ino said as Naruto chuckled. And that hasn't changed. So what's up? Is everything okay? Naruto asked. I'm not sure, she said with hesitation in her voice. It's about Barry. Barry? Naruto asked as he looked at Barry who gave him a look. What about Barry? I just had a talk with Iris about Barry and she said something that's kind of making me wondering about if I want to keep seeing him. She said. Really? Okay, I'm interested. What happened? He asked. Well, Barry and I had our official second date last night. We've been on lunch dates and things like that before and they've been great but I'm starting to wonder if I want to keep this going. She said, confusing him. Why would you wonder that? I thought you said things were great. Naruto replied. Yeah, but I don't want to date Barry and think things are going great only to end things because he's so hung up on someone else. She said. I'm sure Barry wouldn't do that. Naruto said as Barry looked at him, asking what was going on. I know but, I don't want to end up like Sakura did our junior year when Sasuke left. She said and Naruto knew what she meant. Sakura was a friend of theirs and had a boyfriend named Sasuke, heir apparent to some big private military company his father ran. He went to college with them, was a condescending, brooding jackass and then disappeared halfway through junior year without a word. It really hurt Sakura and took time and the effort of everyone to help her get over it. Yeah, I understand that. That was a rough year but it's not like Barry's the other guys you've dated. Naruto said as Barry gave him a look and he just shrugged. Trust me, I know him and he's not like those jerks in school. And I agree but it's just that I haven't had the greatest streak with boyfriends. Sai was great but the guys I dated before him ranged from bad to just awful. Look, I'm not saying that Barry and I are going to be together forever or anything like that but I would like to believe that my radar for dateable guys has improved and not gotten worse. She said, legitimately concerned. And I get that, I do but give Barry some credit. I get that Barry can seem like he's new to this but he's one of the best guys I know. Sure, you won't be together forever but he really likes you. He's here with me now and believe me when I say that he can surprise you. Naruto said as Barry went wide eyes and immediately signaled Naruto to shut up. Barry's there with you? Ino asked as Naruto looked at Barry. No, Naruto replied unconvincingly. You're still not that great of a liar. Put him on the phone. She said so Naruto held out the phone, shrugged and mouthed I'm sorry. Hey, Ino. He greeted her and was sweating bullets. Hey, Barry. So when you left breakfast, you said you had a police emergency to attend to but Naruto tells me you're with him. So, were you lying to me or has Naruto become a better liar since I've known him? She asked and Barry realized he goofed up. He wasn't lying, I was. There wasn't a police emergency that I needed to be on. Naruto needs my help on something. Barry told her. What something? She asked. Barry didn't know what to tell her, so Naruto quickly wrote something down and walked over to him with a piece of paper that read, "Tell her you're helping me on a secret project, and I swore you to secrecy." Barry looked at Naruto, who did a thumbs up. Naruto's been working on a science project at Star Labs and needed my help with it. Barry said. Naruto's working on a science project? She asked. Why didn't you just tell me that? Because it's a top secret project that has to do with Star Labs, so that's why I couldn't tell you. He said when Naruto wrote down another sentence and nodded to him. He let me tell you now so long as you promise not to mention it. I won't, not that there's much I can mention. Ino replied. Look, I'm sorry I lied to you about that, but I overheard your conversation with Naruto. I want you to know that I would never do that to you, Ino. I'm not that kind of guy. Barry said. I can partially forgive you for lying to me because it's Naruto and I know he wouldn't vouch for you if you weren't the guy he thinks you are. But you're deep in the doghouse, mister. Ino told him. Understood, and I'll do everything to get out of there. He said and heard her chuckle over the phone, which was a good sign. Who made you worry in the first place? Iris and I had a conversation after you left. Something about an unrequited love you had for someone before we started. Ino told him. It didn't take much effort to realize that Iris was talking about herself. Look, Barry, if you really want to be with Iris, then we can just end it now. No point in wasting our time if you want to be with someone else. No, Ino. Look, I'm over Iris and I want to be with you. Yes, it's true I had feelings for Iris, but those are gone now. I had them, he told her when he heard some shuffling over the phone. Is everything okay? Yeah, but my boss is on his way. Look, we'll later and see where we go from there. Ino hung up and Barry hung his head in exhaustion. Naruto acted like he didn't hear anything, sitting by the computer and whistling while he was doing some calculation. You can stop pretending like you didn't hear us. Barry said. Sorry, dude, Naruto replied. So, what are you going to do? I need to talk to Iris. Barry said. Go ahead. I can handle things here. Naruto told him. Are you sure? Barry asked and Naruto nodded. Yeah, I got this. Go, Naruto said and Barry smiled. Thanks. Barry super sped away. Naruto got back to work on figuring out a way to split Professor Stein from Ronnie, but creating a fission device that could separate a nuclear-powered metahuman without blowing up like a nuclear bomb was going to be very, very, very difficult. Any slightest miscalculation could kill both the professor and Ronnie and destroy all of Central City. Naruto was poring over every single part of the professor's research on Firestorm for a starting point, but even then, this wasn't going to be easy. Using the implosion method of fission might be their best bet, and with a device to bombard the conjoined body with nuclear energy like the night of the incident might be the best way to do this. Ronnie Stein's body was already a walking nuclear reactor, so maybe just getting a device that could use that energy and trigger the reaction would be the way to go. His super genius brain was already formulating a plan. Barry went to CCPN and saw it was busy with activity. He looked over and saw Linda talking to one of coworkers when she saw Barry by the door. Hey, Barry, everything okay? She asked. Not really. Do you know where Iris is? He asked. Yeah, she went to the copy room to get something. Linda said, pointing him in the direction, and he immediately went over there. Thanks for the update. Iris walked out of the copy room with the papers she needed when she saw Barry walk up to her. Hey, what's up? Iris asked. Why would you tell Ino that I had feelings for you? Barry asked. I did not say that. Iris said, thinking over what she remembered. Wait, did I? Okay, Iris, this isn't funny. I mean, I like this girl. He told her. I know, and I am happy for you. Iris said, moving over to the conference table so they could get some privacy. Really? Because I don't. I mean, right now it sort of feels like you don't want to be with me, and you don't want anyone else to be with me either. Barry said. I have wanted nothing more than for you to meet someone who is amazing. Iris replied. And I did. And you went out of your way to convince her that I was unavailable. Barry said. Look, I'm really sorry. Iris replied, and Barry sighed in exhaustion and desperation. Wait, do you want me to talk to her? No, no, no. Absolutely not. Don't talk to her. I'll figure this out on my own. I just need you to know that I don't have those feelings for you anymore. Barry told her, and the news seemed to rock Iris to her core for a second before she readjusted herself and was back to normal. Yeah, I know, she replied. Okay, I'll see you later. Barry bid her farewell and left, leaving Iris to her thoughts and Linda watching the awkward exchange from a distance. I'm glad my relationship with Naruto isn't like that, Linda said to herself before getting back to work. Barry went to the Central City Conservatory Gardens, where he was directed to special research area. He walked in and saw a mixture of a white clean lab room and a greenhouse with rows of flora and fauna species that were specially cared for and monitored. He saw Ino dressed in a white lab coat, tending to a row of plants, and writing things down on a clipboard. Ino. Barry walked up to her and saw she was surprised to see him here. Barry, what are you doing here? She asked. I wanted to see you, Barry said, looking at the plants and didn't recognize them. Wow, I've never seen you in your element. Well, this is my job. Categorization, care, and research on rare and extinct flower species. Meet the Rothschild slipper orchid, one of the rarest flowers on the planet. Only grown in the high altitude of Mount Kinabalu in Borneo, and even then, it's only a few dozen flowers a year. They're valued for their rarity but also have unique chemical properties that can be instrumental in new medicine. This batch is the first group to be bred here, Ino told him. Wow, that's amazing, Barry said, looking at the flowers. Kind of makes the ones I brought look like nothing. Barry took out a small bouquet of roses from his back, which made her smile. Oh, I love roses, Ino replied, taking the bouquet, and taking a smell. I'm sorry about before. I really am, but I want you to know that Iris and I are done. Okay, nothing between us. You have nothing to worry about, but if this gesture isn't enough, I have something else, Barry said, taking out a small red pepper. This is the Naga Jalakia, or the ghost pepper. It is the world's hottest pepper, measuring 401.5 times hotter than Tabasco sauce. If you do not agree to go on another date with me, I will eat it right here, right now. Okay, don't do that, Ino said, taking the pepper, and throwing it in the garbage. Barry breathed a sigh of relief that made her chuckle. That pepper could have killed you. But I appreciate the gesture. It's earned you one more date. Good, and I promise that I won't let my job, Naruto's secret project, or anything come between us, he said, causing her to smile. Naruto sure has great taste in friends, she said, giving him a kiss, and he kissed back, both of them missing the faint green glow of the rare plants. Back at Star Labs, Caitlin was giving Ronnie Stein another checkup in the cosmic treadmill room while Dr. Wells monitored his vitals and cell structure in the cortex. Are you comfortable? Caitlin asked Ronnie Stein, who had a sensor system attached to his body. A little warm, he replied. Ronnie used to always run warm, Caitlin said, walking over to the computer to check his temperature and saw it was at 108.6. Not that warm. She turned back to face him and took a breath. Can I talk to him? I'm sorry, my dear. I'm not sure it works like that. I can feel him though. I have these memories. Memories that I know aren't my own. One is particularly strong. Piedmont State Park. It's famous for the Hudson Falls, Ronnie Stein said, and Caitlin smiled. I know that I've never been, but I can remember those waterfalls perfectly. That's where Ronnie proposed to me, she said. He loves you very much. That I can feel, he replied. Dr. Snow, can we see you for a minute? Dr. Wells called over the intercom. She walked into the cortex to see Naruto and Dr. Wells working. What's wrong? She asked. We have a new problem, Naruto told her. Ronnie's body is rejecting Stein's atoms like a host rejecting a parasite. The resulting instability is causing an exothermic reaction. I worry if his temperature continues to rise, it'll set off a chain reaction, Dr. Wells said. And then what happens? Caitlin asked. He could go nuclear, Naruto said. Cisco walked into the treadmill room to see Ronnie sitting by a gurney. Ronnie. Cisco was happy to see him when he noticed the look he was getting. Not Ronnie. Martin Stein. Ronnie Stein shook Cisco's hand. Cisco Ramon. Cisco greeted him. Your colleagues are in the next room, not so subtly discussing my condition. Ronnie Stein told him, so Cisco went to join them. That's not freaky at all. Cisco said. The firestorm matrix is losing stability quickly. It's probably why he exploded when he went to visit Quentin Quayle. The instability is exponentially increasing the rate of fission inside his body. Naruto told them. Well, how long does he have? Caitlin asked as Naruto and Dr. Wells shared the same grim look. If his temperature keeps rising at the current pace, no more than a couple of hours. Dr. Wells replied. Well, can you separate them before it's too late? Caitlin asked and Naruto took a deep breath. Maybe, but any attempt we make to separate the two of them now could create a nuclear explosion. And at this magnitude and energy level, it would level this entire city. Naruto told them. Unless, Dr. Wells said, drawing their attention. Unless the host body were no longer functional. You want to kill Ronnie? Caitlin asked. No, I don't want to kill Ronnie. But in this scenario, Ronnie is the host body. Wells replied. If you kill Ronnie, you kill Stein. That's two people. Cisco told him. We're running out of time with no clear options. And my guess is that if Ronnie and Professor Stein knew the consequences that we were all facing, they would make the same decision. It's 2 lives for millions. Dr. Wells said when Naruto spoke. But I might have an idea. Naruto walked over to the cortex and pressed a few buttons on the computer, bringing up blueprints and schematics for a small device. It's an energy device that would use Ronnie's own nuclear energy to create a fission reaction with the firestorm matrix within his cells. Naruto told them. Like using Stein as a battery. Cisco said. Yeah. It should bombard his body with the same amount of energy he experienced the night of the accelerator accident, and if his theory holds any weight then it should separate the two of them. Naruto said, causing Caitlin to smile. It's good news except for a slight problem. The device might not be able to handle the rising energy buildup going on now. Without more time to test it, if I use the device there's a good chance it could cause the reaction we're trying to avoid. How much time would you need to test it? Caitlin asked. Properly to make sure it doesn't explode, more time than we have. It's a 50-50 shot if it will work. Naruto told her. Naruto, I admire your determination but we're running out of time. Dr. Wells said. I'm not going to lose Ronnie again. You said we have a couple of hours. Use them. Caitlin told him before leaving. Cisco, come on. Let's get to work. Naruto said and Cisco nodded but walked over to Dr. Wells who was leaving the cortex. Dr. Wells, you don't really think we should kill Ronnie, do you? He asked. Help Naruto, Cisco. Dr. Wells told him. Cisco watched him leave and in that split moment, he went to go do something. Naruto walked into the treadmill room to see the professor staring at the treadmill in wonder. Professor, can I get you anything? A glass of Chateau Haut Briand Pessic Liognan 1982 might be nice. Or maybe it wouldn't. This body's taste buds would obviously be different from my own. Perhaps I am now a light beer man. Ronnie Stein said. There are worse things to be. Naruto replied. You mean like a living nuclear bomb? He asked. Unstable nuclear fission was always a danger in the transmutation process. Plus, you all argue very loudly. We're not giving up on you, Professor. Naruto told him. And I might have an idea that could work on separating you two and stabilizing Firestorm. Naruto gave him a tablet and showed him the designs and calculations for a quantum splicer. A quantum splicer. A very genius and elegant design. Ronnie Stein replied, looking over the designs. A far cry from what you were doing when you were my student. A lot's changed since then but it could work. Naruto told him. It's designed to use your body's own nuclear power to bombard your atoms with the same amount of energy they experienced the night of the accelerator explosion. It should be enough to separate you. or cause the reaction we're trying to avoid. I overheard you, Ronnie Stein said. I know, but what other choice do we have? We've got nothing left to lose for trying this, and it could work. Naruto told him. Professor, I know a lot have happened to you the past several months, but take one more risk with me. Ronnie Stein thought it over for a second, looking over the designs once more before nodding. Do we have all the components we need to build it? He asked. I think we do, and I could use an extra set of hands and brilliant mind to make it go easier. Naruto said. Ronnie Stein agreed and began working with Naruto and Cisco to help build the quantum splicer. They scrounged up all the parts to build the quantum splicer, and they worked as urgently as they could. They managed to build up most of the device, but they were missing a complex energy circuit. Damn it, Naruto said to himself, looking over all the lab and storage areas for a circuit that could handle the computing for the quantum splicer but couldn't find one. Naruto took out his phone and called Dr. Wells. Dr. Wells, I need a Mercury 5 quantum processing chip for the quantum splicer, but I can't find one in the storage areas or the lab. Do you know where to get one? I'm already ahead of you on that, Naruto. I made some calls and managed to acquire one. I'll meet you in the cortex. He replied. Thank God for Dr. Wells. Naruto said, super speeding back to the lab and continuing with the building of the device. Barry had arrived at this point and Cisco got him up to speed on their plan. Once Dr. Wells arrived at the cortex with the circuit piece they needed, they finished up the construction of the device. How much longer? Barry asked. Almost done, Naruto replied. Even if we use the device to separate me, there's still the risk of an exothermic reaction that could destroy this entire building. Ronnie Stein said. The Badlands is 30 miles outside of Central City. It's in the middle of nowhere. Barry said. Then that is where you need to use this. Dr. Wells said, finishing up the last of the adjustments and locking the plate in place. Okay, Naruto. I have hopes that this idea of yours will work, but even you're not fast enough to outrun a nuclear explosion, so you get Stein and the splicer to the Badlands and then you get out of there as fast as you can. Right. Naruto took the device and quickly suited up. Ronnie Stein got up to leave when Caitlin stopped him to have a possible final word. Ronnie, if you're in there, I love you. She said, and Ronnie Stein kissed her and she kissed back. That was from him, he told her, causing her to smile. I look forward to meeting you in person, Professor. Caitlin said. Naruto grabbed Ronnie Stein by the shoulder and super sped out of the cortex all the way to the Badlands. They were in the middle of nowhere in case something went wrong. I sure hope this works. Naruto said. Attach the splicer right where Ronnie's heart was. Several straps and energy pressure pads extended over his chest and back, and the splicer began to power up. Naruto took a few steps back, seeing the splicer glow and absorb energy, thinking it was working when Ronnie Stein erupted into flames more powerful than before. Something's going on. He's not gonna make it. He's gonna blow, Cisco said, seeing the energy readout on the monitors. Get out of there. Naruto, get out of there now. Dr. Wells shouted. Run. Ronnie Stein shouted, and Naruto booked it out of there as fast as he could. He heard Ronnie Stein scream, followed by a massive nuclear explosion. A massive mushroom cloud exploded and a massive shockwave emanated from the blast point and was right on Naruto's butt. He ran as fast as he could, making it about 30 miles away when the dust cloud shockwave knocked him off his feet. He tumbled onto the ground and a wave of dirt and ash hit his face. Naruto. Naruto, are you okay? Dr. Wells called, hoping he was. Yeah, I think so. Naruto got up and noticed the massive mushroom cloud of fire and smoke. Oh my god, there's no telling how much nuclear radiation is saturating the area. Wait, this can't be. The sensor in Naruto's suit is reading less than 1 milliard. Cisco said. That's normal. Barry said. There's no radiation. Dr. Wells said, leaving him, Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin confused. Naruto put on his goggles and began scanning the area to see if Cisco was right, and to his word, there weren't any excess deadly levels of radiation in the area. Yeah, My goggles aren't picking up any dangerous levels of radiation. Naruto said, switching his goggles viewing mode to thermal. It picked up the remnants of the explosion, but two new signatures began to form. Hang on, I'm picking up two new heat signatures. Two signatures, Cisco said, and Dr. Wells, Barry, and Caitlin shared a look. Naruto super sped into the ash cloud and looked around to see the massive impact crater from the explosion. He used his goggles to scan the area and found one of the heat signatures was a body. He took off his goggles and saw a body on the ground and rushed over to see it was Ronnie, and he was moving. His clothes were tattered and had ash smudged all around him. Hey, Naruto knelt down to him. What's your name? Ronnie Raymond. Ronnie said, causing Naruto to smile. I'm back. Your plan worked. It was a 50-50 shot. Naruto joked, holding his hand out and helped Ronnie up. Nice to meet you in the flesh, Ronnie. Caitlin's told me all about you. And I'm glad to meet you in person. Ronnie said. Where's the professor? Naruto asked. Excuse me. They heard and they saw Professor Stein walk up to them, in tattered clothes and had ash smudges. But obviously I need a change of clothes. Nice to see you again, Professor Stein. Naruto said with a smile before tapping his ear. We're coming home, all of us. Naruto super sped Ronnie and Professor Stein back to Star Labs and took them up to the Cortex level. They exited the elevator and saw Caitlin waiting for them in the elevator lobby. Once she saw Ronnie, she rushed over and hugged him with all her might, kissing him, and he kissed back. I'm glad you're alive, she said as Ronnie smiled and kissed her once more. I'm back, he told her. Cisco and Dr. Wells then arrived. Ronnie Raymond. Cisco was beyond happy to see him and the two bro hugged. Oh, I missed you so much, man. I shouldn't have locked you in there. Hey, don't, Ronnie told him. Welcome back, Mr. Raymond. Dr. Wells greeted him. Dr. Wells, Naruto told me what happened to you. I'm so sorry, Ronnie said, shaking his hand. I'm responsible for putting myself in this chair. You are responsible my still being alive, thank you. Dr. Wells said as Caitlin hugged Naruto. You said you'd bring him back, and you did. Thank you, she said. You're welcome, Naruto told her before looking at Professor Stein. All right, I think Ronnie and the professor could use some place to clean up and get some new clothes. Follow me. Naruto led the professor to a new room to change and get cleaned up while Caitlin did the same for Ronnie. After he got cleaned up and changed, she took him to the med bay and ran some tests. Your vitals appear to be normal, except you have a slight fever of 100.6. Caitlin said. Kate, I'm fine, I promise. He assured her. I know, but we just need to be. Shish, Ronnie shushed her with a kiss and she kissed back. Yup, just when I forgot how awkward it was to walk in on you two. Cisco said, arriving in the lab with Dr. Wells, Professor Stein and Naruto. Well, you can get used to it again. Caitlin told him. So, I did a full medical workup on the professor. Dr. Wells said, handing Caitlin the tablet with the information. It turns out that now that he and Ronnie are separated, they no longer possess the abilities of Firestorm. Professor Stein, you seem to be running a little hot as well. Same as Ronnie, 100.6. She said. Hardly a sweat, Dr. Snow. And hopefully now the only thing Ronald and I have in common, it's Ronnie. Ronnie corrected him. Hey, you gonna miss being able to fly? Cisco asked with a smile. Yeah, maybe if I was the one holding the controller. Ronnie replied. Meaning? Stein asked. Meaning, you weren't the most conscientious body mate. Ronnie told him. So, you do not consider keeping you alive to be conscientious? Stein asked, feeling insulted that Ronnie didn't appreciate what he's done for him. Alive, we were living under a bridge eating garbage. Ronnie said. I did not determine that it would be my mind that would dominate our existence, but thank God it was. Stein said as Naruto, Cisco, and Dr. Wells shared a look at the little former body mate scuffle. I could feel your fear and panic, emotions that likely would have gotten us killed in that state. You kept me buried down. You kept me from her. Ronnie said. Which is likely why she's still alive. Stein replied. Now I believe you and I have spent quite enough time together. Yeah, Ronnie agreed. I would like to go home to see my wife. Stein told them. I'm ready when you are, Professor. Naruto replied. Thank you, Stein said. He and Ronnie parted on manageable terms, but both were ready to resume their old lives. Naruto took Professor Stein back to his home and he was excited to see his wife in the flesh again when he stopped at the door. Oh, wait, what should I say? You're not gonna have to say anything, Naruto assured him when the door opened and Clarissa saw her husband. Oh, Clarissa, I'm so sorry I put you through this, Stein told her. She kissed and held him close, just happy to have him back. Naruto smiled at the little scene as Clarissa mouthed thank you to him. Oh, Mr. Naruto. Naruto, I know that you know from experience that I can be a bit difficult, but thank you for bringing me back. I'll never be able to repay you. Don't mention it, Professor Stein. I'll see you soon. Naruto bid him farewell and super sped away. While Naruto dealt with that, Barry went to CCPD to finish up on some work. He walked into his lab to see Joe watching the news on the TV. Hey, I left you 3 messages. Yeah, sorry about that. Things have been kind of hectic, Barry replied. You mean with the lack of communication or that new hole out in the Badlands? Joe asked. We're all fine, thanks, Barry told him. I wasn't calling about the explosion. I have to show you something, Joe said, and the two took a drive to Barry's old childhood home. They walked into the house and Barry froze a bit being back after all these years. Being back at your old childhood home should fill you with feelings of nostalgia and fond memories, but for Barry it was the opposite. It was the place where his mother was killed and his father was sent to prison. It was where his life was set on a different path. It's smaller than I remember, he said. Yeah, it's because you're bigger. Have you been in here? Joe asked, walking into the house, and Barry followed him. I mean, recently. No, I haven't been in this house since that night, Barry replied, and saw Joe stop at some kind of machine and saw a mirror attached to it. This mirror, you remember it? He asked as Barry walked over and looked at it. Yeah, it belonged to my grandma. How is it still here? He wondered. Just be glad it is. Look, I don't fully know how Cisco did it, but, did what? Joe, what are we doing here? Barry asked. Joe motioned Barry to step to the side as he turned on the device, and it projected a hologram that depicted the event 15 years ago when his mother was attacked by the Reverse Flash. You can definitely see 2 very fast people fighting around your mother, Joe said, pointing to the stilled images of red and yellow blurs. 2 speedsters, Barry said. You see that? Joe pointed to the red projection on the wall. The blood? Barry asked. Cisco and I had the DNA tested. It's yours, Joe told him, but Barry shook his head. No, it's not. That's impossible. I wasn't even downstairs yet, Barry replied. No, Barry, not that you. This you, Joe corrected him. Cisco had the sample analyzed. The proteins in the blood were that of an adult, not a child. But that means, the second speedster, the one trying to stop the man in yellow, is the Flash. That's me, Barry said. Line break XXXXX. Barry and Joe went to Star Labs to talk to Naruto and Dr. Wells and told them of their discovery. Apparently, older Barry time traveled back 15 years ago to fight the Reverse Flash and try to save his mother. Barry, Naruto, Cisco, Dr. Wells, and Joe were in one of the labs to discuss the new evidence and figure out how and if it was really possible. Time travel, Dr. Wells said in wonder. I'm sorry, but even with my advancing brain, time travel seems crazy, Naruto said, thinking that even with everything they've seen and done, that time travel seemed ridiculous. I get that what Barry, Linda and I can do is crazy, but breaking the sound barrier in our sneakers and shooting pure light from your hands is nothing compared to being able to travel through time. If anything, time travel seems impossible. Arthur C. Clarke's second law states that the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible, Dr. Wells told him. Don't use Arthur C. Clarke to dissuade me. You know that works, Naruto joked. If the last 5 months have proven anything, it's that anything can exist, but to actually travel through time. Barry asked. Well, the greatest minds in human history put their collective genius towards solving that puzzle. Dr. Wells replied. So, is it possible? Joe asked. Yes, it's possible, Dr. Wells replied, and Joe went wide-eyed, not expecting that answer. But problematic. Assuming you could create the conditions necessary to take that journey, well, that journey would then be fraught with potential pitfalls. The Novikov principle of self-consistency, for example. Wait, the what now? Joe asked. If you travel back in time to change something, then you end up being the causal factor for that event. Barry told him, but Joe was still confused. It's a theory that suggests the past can't be altered by time travel, and anything you do to prevent something from happening only guarantees that it will happen, but it'll be your fault. Naruto added. Like Terminator. Cisco simplified it, and Joe understood what they meant. Is time plastic? Is it mutable, whereby any changes to the continuum could create an alternate timeline? Dr. Wells said. Back to the Future. Cisco said. Oh, saw that one too. Joe replied. Doc Brown. Tremendous picture. Dr. Wells added. Right. So what's the answer? Joe asked. I might be a clever guy, Joe, but if you're asking me to give you a working theory on how to travel through time, I'm afraid I just can't do that. Dr. Wells replied. So Joe looked at Naruto. Don't look at me. I may have a growing brain, but this is way out of my wheelhouse. Naruto told him. There is someone else you can talk to about this. Cisco suggested, pointing Barry and Naruto to a friend for help. Over at Central City Picture News, Iris was looking over Star Labs blueprints on the desk of her colleague Mason Bridge. Bridge walked over and held out a Danish. Danish? He asked. Why do you have a copy of the Star Labs particle accelerator? Do you even know anything about physics? Iris asked. Not a thing. Might as well be written in Dothraki. He told her, sitting down in his chair. So, what more is there with the Star Labs story? The only new piece of information is the fact that Harrison Wells admitted that he was warned of a potential disaster. Iris said. Yeah, why do you think he did that? Mason asked. Because he's a good person. Iris replied. Is he? He asked again. Yes. He saved my friend's life. He was struck by lightning that night, and Dr. Wells and his team kept him alive. Iris said. So, your friend wouldn't have needed saving if Wells hadn't zapped him in the first place. He pointed out. It was an accident. Iris told him. What if it wasn't? Mason suggested. So you think Harrison Wells wanted the particle accelerator to explode? Why would he do that? She asked. I don't know what goes on inside that building. But I think you know some people who do. Mason said, holding up the Danish. So you think I would investigate my friends because you got me a Danish? She asked, thinking he was crazy. I think that you'll do it because you really want to know what goes on inside that building. Mason told her. Linda overheard the entire conversation and knew that Mason was going to keep digging into this, and it could expose Naruto and Barry. She quickly sent him a text about what she overheard between the two. Naruto and Barry had arrived at Professor Stein's house when he got the text. Oh, boy, that puts a wrinkle in our plans. Naruto said. What's wrong? Barry asked. You know Linda's coworker Mason Bridge? He asked as Barry nodded. She said that Mason's been digging into Star Labs and thinks there's more going on there than what they were told. That puts us in the meta prison in danger. If the press finds out the truth, then we can kiss our secret identities goodbye and say hello to prison cells or science labs for the rest of our lives. So, what do we do? Barry asked. I'll think of something. Naruto replied, ringing the doorbell, and Clarissa answered. Hi, sorry to bother you, Mrs. Stein, but is the professor home? After a year apart, I'm not letting him out of my sight. She joked, causing them to chuckle. Star Labs did quite a few tests on Martin, didn't they? And they said he was fine. Yeah, why? Is something wrong? Barry asked. He just seems a little different, is all. She told them. He's been asking for pizza. Martin despises pizza. Is that the delivery man? They heard as Professor Stein walked up to the door. Oh, Mr. Allen, Naruto, I don't suppose it's too much to hope one of you moonlight as a pizza delivery boy. I am famished. Rock, paper, scissors. Naruto suggested, and the two had a quick game that led to Naruto winning, so Barry super sped away to grab a pizza. Oh, bravo. Please, come in, he said as Naruto and Barry walked in. Professor Stein opened up the box and began digging into pineapple and ham pizza, and before Naruto could say anything about the choice of toppings, he stopped himself. So, how can I be of assistance? We need to talk to you about a paper you wrote 25 years ago for the Oxford University Press. Barry said. Can you be a little specific about the subject matter? I've written many papers for that publication. He replied. Time travel, Naruto said, and the professor stopped mid-bite before showing them to his office and the equations and calculations that lined the wall. These are just a few of the random thoughts I've had on the subject. You see, I believe that space-time is a free-flowing highway that intersects the physical world. We live in the moments between the on and the off ramps. Theoretically, to travel through time, one merely needs to find a way onto the highway. Stein told them. Okay, so you're saying that this is actually possible, to travel through time? Barry asked. Undoubtedly, Stein replied with conviction. What about the past? Barry asked. Yes, my own personal choice would be the Chicago World's Fair, 1893. I think Nikola Tesla and I would have some wonderful arguments. What about you? Would you be interested in taking a trip into history? Stein asked. I think that I already have. Barry replied, and Stein looked at him in confusion. Professor, 15 years ago, my mom was murdered, and we recently discovered some evidence that I was there that night, and not just as a kid, but as an adult. Stein took a moment to process this new bit of information and began to get excited. That must be a side effect of your incredible speed. In some future date, you actually move so fast that the resulting kinetic energy buildup smashes a hole in the space-time continuum. Stein blurted out in excitement, but noticed Barry wasn't that pleased with the thought. You seem disappointed by the prospect. I mean, if I do somehow make it back there to that night, then it means that I didn't save her. My destiny is to fail. Barry said. Maybe not, Naruto said as Barry looked at him. Look, I'm still trying to process the entire idea of time travel and how it's not just science fiction, but that doesn't mean you can't change what happened. I mean, taking the rules of all the science fiction I've read and watched growing up, just knowing the future can change it, so why can't we change what happened? Naruto proposes an excellent conundrum. Just because events played out in the past one way does not mean that the event is a closed loop and incapable of change. Now that you know what will happen, events may not play out the same way that led you traveling to the past in the first place, thereby changing your future and possibly changing the past. Stein told him. So, I could go back there and save my mother? Barry asked. I spent the last year being merged with a young man by an experiment of my own creation and was saved by my former student who can break the sound barrier in his sneakers. Anything is possible, Mr. Allen. All that remains is for you to figure out how to change the events. Stein assured him, and Barry smiled at the prospect of saving his mother. First step in that would be to figure out how we actually travel to the past. Since we're not using a TARDIS or a nuclear-powered DeLorean, how fast would we need to get to travel through time? I mean, I'm thinking that Barry and I would need to travel at the speed of light to even consider something like this, unless there's something else at play beside just our speed. Naruto said. And there you postulate an excellent problem, Naruto, one that will require endless calculations and the greatest scientific minds to solve. Stein replied, going into full science mode, and they began going over ideas to figure out how to solve this issue of time travel. They worked on the problem for an hour, so the professor went to get a drink when he felt funny and dropped the glass on the floor. Professor, Naruto, Barry, and Clarissa rushed over and saw Stein was shuddering like he was scared. What's wrong? I don't know, I feel terrified. My heart is racing, Stein said. I think Ronald is in trouble. How could you know that? Barry asked. Jitters. He needs help. Go, Stein told them, so they rushed out of the house to see if he was right. They grabbed their suits and raced towards Jitters to see Ronnie surrounded by General Eiling and a squad of soldiers. Flash and Impulse quickly took care of the soldiers, disarming them and knocking them unconscious when Eiling took out a small glowing box and tossed it into the air. It shattered and released dozens of sharp needles that hovered in the air before turning right towards them. Impulse saw some trash can lids and used them as shields, covering him and the Flash so the needles hit the metal surface and not them. The Flash sucker punched Eiling across the face and knocked him out before grabbing Ronnie, and the two raced to Star Labs. "Are you two all right?" Dr. Wells asked. "Yeah, we're fine. Nice quick thinking with the trash can's lid," Barry said as Naruto held them up. "I worked with what I had," Naruto said, taking out of the needles and looked it over. "Suffice it say that the mess with Firestorm isn't over yet. I'm so stupid." Jason Rush, the grad student who was helping Professor Stein with his Firestorm, he said that the army took all of Professor Stein's material when he disappeared. "I should have known it was General Eiling," Caitlin said. "Not your fault. He still thinks you hold the keys to the ultimate human weapon, both of you," Dr. Wells said to Ronnie. "Okay, I'm gonna go get the professor and Clarissa and bring them both here. It's not going to be safe with Eiling after him," Naruto said. "Stein's fine," Ronnie told him. "How do you know?" Cisco asked. "He's right there," Ronnie said as they all turned to see the professor standing there by the doorway. "I don't think Mr. Raymond and I are as distinctive as we had hoped," he said. They took the two to one of the labs to run some tests on what was going on, and some brain scans showed that their brain waves were synced up while Naruto went to check on something. "I'm still inside Ronald," Stein said. "There has to be a better way to phrase that," Cisco said, and Barry chuckled. "Beta, Alpha, Theta, Delta, all your brain waves are perfectly in sync. The chances of that are next to impossible," Caitlin said. "Impossible is just another Tuesday for us, remember?" Barry pointed out. "Yeah, but this is like some Twilight Zone level stuff, and I say that knowing full well that we have a guy locked up in our basement who can turn himself into poison gas," Cisco said. "Wait, really?" Ronnie asked. "Dude, that was like week 3. Cisco replied. "Look, if this Eiling is as dangerous as you say, then I need to warn Clarissa," Professor Stein said, getting up from the chair when Naruto walked in. "Don't worry, Professor, she's already someplace safe. I'm having her stay at the shelter where I live. She's completely safe, and Tsunade and Shizune are going to look after her along with Linda," Naruto assured him. "She's completely safe, but I think there's some information you should know." Naruto pressed a few buttons on the tablet so the information was mirrored onto the monitors. The data he showed was the scans and data on Ronnie and Professor Stein. "I did a little digging and I think I might have found something interesting." Naruto brought up Ronnie's scans and showed his DNA, which had an anomaly in the genes. "I did some research, and while I'm not as skilled as Caitlin is in biomechanics, I saw that Ronnie underwent some minor gene rearrangement mutation, probably from his exposure to all that dark matter from the particle accelerator." "So, I'm a meta?" Ronnie asked as Naruto nodded. "Join the club," Naruto replied. "But from what I can tell, no other symptoms appear to present, but I did manage to isolate a genome I think is the genetic cause for meta powers." "A meta gene, if you're so inclined to call it." "Oh, nice name," Cisco said. "So, the same gene that changed in Ronnie is in all the other metas who were affected by the accelerator?" Barry asked. "Yeah, I only had time to run it across the known meta DNA we have, being us and the people we have locked up, and the genome is there, so I identified the underlying cause for meta powers. But that's not why I brought this up," Naruto said, switching to Professor Stein's scans to show unusual molecular activity. "Dear God," Stein said, looking at what was happening to his body. "Firestorm is still active. Active and inside your body," Naruto said. "When the particle accelerator exploded, the dark matter that collided with the Firestorm matrix latched onto the closest living vessel, which was the professor. As a result, it's altered the molecular activity of his body. All those highly reactive molecules needed something to bond with in order to stabilize, or else the professor would have gone nuclear that night. And that's where I came in. Ronnie said. Exactly. You essentially acted as a grounding mechanism for Firestorm and allowed it to stabilize, and the reaction merged the two of you together into one. Even though we managed to separate the two of you, Firestorm is still alive in a sense. It's just been split into its two equal parts. Naruto told them. Would that explain why the professor knew Ronnie was in danger and how Ronnie the professor was here? Caitlin asked. Probably. You two were bonded for over 14 months, so who knows what could have happened. Even if we separated you two, both of you are important parts of Firestorm, so maybe it's a defense mechanism between the two components to ensure its survival. A mental link of sorts. Naruto said. I'll have to run some more tests to be sure. For now, we relax and stay out of trouble. Barry took Ronnie and Caitlin to Joe's while the professor stayed at Star Labs with Naruto and Cisco. Dr. Wells wasn't anywhere to be seen, and he had actually left to go see General Eiling without telling the others. He was escorted into the secret military base that Eiling was using for his own little private science experiment, which didn't have the approval of Army higher-ups. They were blissfully unaware of what was happened, and if they were, then Eiling could kiss his entire career goodbye. Dr. Wells strolled into Eiling's office to see him holding an ice pack to his check and signing documents at his desk, most likely more approvals for legal tests. Harrison. Wade. Wells replied back. I had a feeling you would be wheeling by. Tell me, you proud of your little protege getting the drop on us? Eiling asked while Harrison didn't visibly react. What? Did you think that just because Impulse wears a mask that it can cover up that spiky hair of his? I'd recognize it anywhere. You here to hand him over so he can put his mind to work that actually matters. You know I would never allow that. Naruto would never work for you. Wells told him. Well, soon enough I won't give him a choice. Eiling replied. If you want to save your little protege, then get me what I want. I don't know how Firestorm works. Wells told him. No, but you can get me what I need, both of them. Thanks to you, Harrison, it's the dawn of a new age. Cold War, the war on terror. We'll seem like cavemen fighting with sticks once those two freaks bind together. Eiling said while Wells couldn't believe he was serious about all of this. Well, you'll know where to find me when you want to hand those two over. I know you, Harrison. After all, you're the smartest guy the first know. And you know you won't win this fight. Line break XXXXX. Barry was with Joe, Caitlin and Ronnie while Naruto was still running some tests back at Star Labs. He finished up another batch of tests when he saw the monitor in the Cortex playing the local news that was covering the attack at Jitters, and while eyewitnesses say it was men in army uniforms attacking the shop, no official statement from the army had been made regarding the incident, which gave Naruto an idea. He knew that the army would never allow something like that to happen on U.S. soil. The Posse Comitatus Act limits federal troop deployment on U.S. soil, and it would never allow the army to shoot up a coffee shop with innocent civilians in the way. Sure, the Army National Guard could operate, but those are usually for policing under states of emergencies from the governor or something crazy like a nuclear attack scare. And Eiling was not National Guard. Eiling's whole unit was probably off the books for this, but if word got out about what happened, Eiling could kiss his whole career goodbye, and Naruto just figured out a way to get rid of him. Naruto finished up working on some devices for his little plan when Professor Stein walked in. Professor, did you need something? Just wanted to stretch my legs for a bit. I've been walking around and this is quite an impressive facility. Stein said. And we've been putting it to good work helping keep this city safe, but that's not all we've done. Naruto motioned him over to show him the monitor of the arc reactor. What do you think? Stein looked over the data and was amazed at what he was seeing. The energy output was extraordinary for something of its size. Astonishing. What is it? Stein asked. It's called the arc reactor. First of its kind ever built. A new advancement in clean, renewable energy that gives out the same energy output as 3 nuclear facilities with zero waste and dangers. It was my parents' idea. When I came to Star Labs, Dr. Wells helped me figure out how to actually make it work. It's been powering Star Labs for the past week. Naruto told him. Remarkable. Naruto, you just marked the next chapter in clean and renewable energy. This reactor could help mankind's reliance on fossil fuels and diminishing resources. You've done something that the greatest minds on the planet have been tackling for years. Stein was completely amazed at this revolution. Science was all about helping mankind progress forward in the right direction, and Naruto's arc reactor was a massive step towards that. That's not all I've been working on. Naruto pushed a few buttons and brought up the schematics, blueprints, and equations for all the other projects he had, ranging from his defense projects to early chemical formulas for a man-made bacterium that would eat away at plastic and foam for environmental repair. Think you could take a look? I could use another brilliant scientific mind to help me out with the science. I'd be delighted, Stein replied, sitting down at the computer to get to work. Okay, I'll be right back. I just need to get something, Naruto told him, grabbing his jacket and leaving. He took out his phone and called Linda as he left Star Labs. Hey, did you set everything up? Yeah, I did. Are you sure about this? This seems really risky, Linda told him. Don't worry, everything should be fine after this, Naruto replied, hanging up and leaving with elevator with a smirk on his face. Naruto made his way into the city and stopped in an alleyway. He jumped onto a dumpster and waited a few minutes by himself, playing Candy Crush on his phone. After about 10 minutes, he heard tires screeching and smirked as army jeeps showed up and a squad of army soldiers moved out in formation with assault rifles. They moved into position and aimed their weapons at him. He waited about half a minute and General Eiling showed up as well. Naruto ended his game and looked at the time on his phone. Huh, took you about 11 minutes to get here. Honestly, I was expecting it would take half the time, Naruto joked as two of the soldiers grabbed him off the dumpster and brought him over to Eiling. Geez, talk about military action taken too far. Where is Firestorm? Eiling asked. I honestly have no idea what you're talking about, but if I did, I wouldn't tell you, Naruto replied, looking at all of Eiling's men and saw the street camera turn towards them. So, are you going to let me go, or is the US military going to take an innocent citizen without just cause and zero authority? Take him, Eiling ordered, and one of the soldiers put a black bag over his head before cuffing his hands behind his back and dragging him into the jeep. Naruto's phone dropped onto the ground and he was thrown into a jeep. Naruto smirked underneath the bag over his head as everything was going according to plan. He waited about an hour of driving before the jeep slowed down and eventually stopped, probably having been pulled into whatever secret base Eiling was operating out of. He was grabbed from the jeep and escorted into the facility before being pushed into a chair, and his hands were tied to the armrests. The bag was yanked off his head so Naruto could see he was in some dingy old room, likely an interrogation or experimentation room. Wow, nice digs. What, rooms at the Bates Hotel weren't available? Naruto joked. You know, I figured someone like you who has his head so far up his ass that he can see his colon has got to worry a tiny bit about all the noise you made in the city. The public knows only what we see fit to tell them, Eiling informed him. Wow, way to earn the public's trust, Naruto replied. You know you're gonna be in hot water for the way you ordered your men in the city. Last I checked, the Posse Comitatus Act pretty much forbids the army to operate on US soil like you do, and once word gets out, you can say hello to a military court-martial. What Uncle Sam doesn't know, the better for the rest of the country. There are a lot of things that we do that we don't report, Eiling said. That the army does, or just you? Naruto asked. Look, not that I don't mind the wonderful accommodations you've put me in, but are you going to let me go anytime soon? You have no reason told me. Don't I? Eiling asked, smirking while Naruto was as calm as can be. You know, your mentor came by to try and keep you all safe, especially you. And I was fully prepared to do so in exchange for one thing. Firestorm, or as they are now known as Martin Stein and Ronald Raymond. Even if I knew anything about that, I don't plan on telling you anything, Naruto replied. Well, you can either give me what I want and give me Firestorm, or I can reorganize my efforts into a new project, super soldiers with super speed such as yours. Ailing told him, which made Naruto raise an eyebrow. I recognize that spiky blonde hair anywhere. Now that I have you, I'm thinking I can shift my focus from soldiers who can control fire to soldiers who can break the sound barrier in their boots. That would be an amazing achievement, but I highly doubt that you'll be able to do that. Naruto told him. I wouldn't too sure about that. When I get my sights on something, I never stop. Ailing informed him. I'm not doubting your perseverance or your craziness, I'm doubting your skills in science, and to that extent, the people you have under your employ. Naruto joked. There's no chance any of those hacks could even come close to replicating what I can do. You may be right. If your genetics or anything to go by, your intelligence should eclipse all my scientists, so why not put it to good use? With your mind, you could be using it to do great things for your country. Ailing told him. You're right, I do want to use my mind to help this country, but not with war. Naruto replied. And quite frankly, if I wanted to work with you, I might as well sell my soul to the devil. You don't know where the line is. There is no line. I'm disappointed, but it was to be expected. I guess we're gonna have to do it the hard way. Ailing nodded to one of his men. WHP opened the door to the room and two men and a woman in suits walked in. The woman unfolded a large baton that had a taser on the end. Do you worse, asshole? Naruto taunted him. I will. Last time I did this was to a gorilla. Ailing said as the woman shocked him, causing Naruto to scream. While Naruto is being tortured by Ailing, Dr. Wells strolled into the lab expecting to see Naruto but saw Professor Stein. Professor, where's Naruto? He stepped out for a bit. Said he needed to get something. Stein replied, looking at some calculations on a tablet. I must say that your protege has come a long way since my classroom. That he has. He is also gifted with youth, so he may very well eclipse both of us in the near future. Dr. Wells commented. Dr. Wells. They heard as Cisco rushed into the cortex. We got a problem. What is it, Cisco? He asked. Cisco rushed over to the monitors to bring up CCTV footage and showed them Naruto being taken away by the army. Dear God, Stein said in horror. Dr. Wells looked at the screen in horror and anger at the sight of the army men dragging Naruto away, putting a bag on his head and throwing him into the jeep. His fist tightened and he almost stood up in anger but stopped himself before turning to Cisco. When was this taken? About half an hour ago. I tried contacting Naruto, but when he didn't answer, I tracked his phone and it was in that alley. I backed up CCTV footage and found that. Cisco told them. Cisco, contact Barry, Caitlin, Ronnie and Linda and have them come to Star Labs now. Dr. Wells ordered and Cisco got to work. What would Ailing possibly want with Naruto? Stein asked. If I had to hazard a guess, either he wants Naruto's help with Firestorm or he plans on replicating Naruto's powers for his own use. Dr. Wells estimated. If Ailing actually does that, God help us all. Stein said in worry. The rest of the group soon arrived in the cortex and they were all beyond worried about Naruto being taken by Ailing. So, what do we do? We can get him back, right? Barry asked. We will, Barry, but we need to be careful. Ailing is someone not to be messed with and your earlier encounter with him shows that he's already developed weapons to handle the Flash. Dr. Wells told him. Where do you think Ailing took Naruto? Caitlin asked. I imagine some off-the-books military research facility. Dr. Wells replied. We need to get him back. Cisco said. I'm more surprised that they even took him. Why didn't he just fight or get out of there before they showed up? Ronnie pointed out, which was a valid question when Dr. Wells noticed Linda wasn't over distraught or in a crying mess like he figured she would be if Naruto was taken. She was too busy doing something on her phone. Ms. Park, is everything all right? Dr. Wells asked as the others looked at her and she looked like a deer in headlights. I'd imagine the news of Naruto being taken would come as more of a shock to you unless something else is going on. What do you mean? Barry asked. Naruto said that you probably would figure it out soon. Linda said, causing Dr. Wells to sigh in both exhaustion and annoyance. What's going on? Caitlin asked. Naruto wasn't taken by Ailing. He went willingly, in which I can only assume is some kind of ridiculous plan to handle the situation. Dr. Wells told them. Is he insane? He does know how dangerous Eiling is. Why would he do that? Barry asked Linda. Don't look at me. I tried to talk him out of it, but once Naruto sets his mind to something, you can't stop him. He told me that the only way to actually get Eiling out of Central City for good and to keep him away from Professor Stein and Ronnie would be if the Armed Services Committee and the Army top brass find out what he's done. Linda told them. And how can we do that? Stein asked. Well, I'm currently in the process of that. Naruto gave me a code to get a copy of the CCTV footage from Jitters. Eiling thinks his men deleted the footage, but I got it. That combined with the footage of him taking Naruto has already been circling the internet, and it won't be long before we get the last piece of the puzzle. Linda said when the computers got an alert. And there is it. Cisco sat at the computer and opened up the alert to see some kind of remote link connect to the Star Labs servers and download some data from a remote position. Something's connected to the Star Labs server and is uploading a lot of information. Cisco opened up the files and saw they were classified military documents. What is it? Caitlin asked. Military documents. Cisco replied, checking them over, and saw they were all highly classified documents about General Eiling and his illegal activities in the army. Everything from the unethical and illegal experiments on animals like the one he did at Star Labs to repurposing military funding for unauthorized weapons building and genetic experiments. It's everything on Eiling. Every single dirty deed he's done with his army resources. Illegal experiments, unauthorized seizures, and a buttload of other things that are definitely in violation of the Geneva Convention. Naruto just gave us our smoking gun against Eiling. If this comes out, then he can kiss his career and power goodbye. Barry said. He does realize how crazy this plan was. That's Naruto for you. No risk, no reward. We just need to make sure his risk is worth it. Linda nodded to Cisco, and he uploaded all the information and security camera footage online. Now I've got a story to write on this. Something tells me my editor is going to want a story on his desk by the end of the day, and lucky for me I got a head start. Naruto said that there would also be coordinates with the data upload if he didn't come back right away. Cisco checked an information packet and saw a low-frequency beacon was activated about 100 miles from the city. I got him. He's about 100 miles from the city. Cisco said. Barry, get him back in one piece. Dr. Wells ordered. Barry nodded and grabbed his suit. I'm coming with you. Ronnie added. Ronnie, no. Caitlin stopped him. You're exactly what Eiling is after. You can't go. Caitlin, Naruto risked his life to try and stop Eiling, and he doesn't even know me. I have to try and help. Ronnie told her. No, she's right, Ronnie. Besides, there are going to be a bunch of soldiers there and you don't have powers. Barry told him. No, he doesn't, but with me he does. Stein stepped forward, which drew confused look from all of them. While I've been here at Star Labs, I've looked over Naruto's notes and data on Firestorm, and every single conclusion he came up with points to an eventual re-emergence for both halves of Firestorm. Caitlin, look, Barry was right. The world is different now. I thought we could get away, start a new life, a normal life, together, but there is no normal life for us. You will always risk your life to try and help people, and I will always be the guy that runs into that pipeline for you. I need to help Barry get Naruto out of there and make sure he's safe. Ronnie told her. Cisco grabbed the quantum splicer from the workbench and handed it to him. The quantum splicer. It was used to separate you once, so maybe it could be of use to keep you. Cisco suggested. Thanks. Ronnie said as Caitlin gave him a kiss for good luck and in case something bad happened. Come back. All four of you. Caitlin said. Ronnie activated the quantum splicer and placed it on his heart, and just like last time, the energy pads and sensors extended over his back and chest. Listen to me. The last time you two combined, you both fought it. This time, don't. Accept the change. Accept the balance. Accept each other. Dr. Wells told them. Once more unto the breach, dear friend. Stein said, and Ronnie nodded. The two moved in close together and began to materialize as light and gas before merging into one like before. Ronnie was there with white eyes and his hands were on fire. Ronnie? Caitlin asked. I'm here, Kate, he replied. Can you hear me, Ronald? Stein asked, inside of Ronnie's mind. Professor, he called out. It appears we merged properly on this attempt. Wells was right about balance and accepting. Now we have a comrade to rescue. Stein told him. Let's go, Firestorm said as Barry quickly suited up and the two left for the military base. Back with Naruto. Arg, Naruto shouted after being zapped for the 20th time in a row. The shocking soon stopped giving him a small reprieve from the pain. Even with his healing and super endurance, it still hurt. Leave it to Eiling to have modified taser sticks for torture. Naruto took a few deep breaths to recover as Eiling got in his face. Well, you show remarkable grit for a scientist. Then again, I shouldn't expect any less. You would have turned into a fine soldier. Eiling commented. If that's all your flunkies got, then you need to hire new people. Naruto joked. Still cracking jokes. Don't worry, I'll drill those out of you just like I do with every new recruit to my battalion. Eiling said as Naruto chuckled. Unfortunately, you won't get the chance. Naruto told him when one of his scientists rushed into the room. Sir, you need to see this. He handed Eiling a tablet that was playing the local news. It showed Eiling that all of his military secrets had been exposed on the internet, including the footage of his attack on Jitters and pretty much all his unethical and inhumane experiments. There was an immediate response from the army disavowing all of Eiling's actions as unauthorized and that an investigation and action would be taken against him. Oh, is something wrong there, Eiling? Maybe a few secrets got out that you never wanted to. Naruto quipped. What did you do? Eiling asked. Did you really think that you stumbled onto me in that alley and I wouldn't have a plan for all of this? I mean, you are talking to one of the world's greatest pranksters, and while I haven't pulled a prank in a long time doesn't mean I lost my touch. Naruto said with a smirk. The second you pulled me into your little secret base, I had a secret virus that began uploading into your entire system and mapped it completely. I call it Technivore and built it with some help from a friend in Starling City with an affinity for hacking. It bypassed all your security protocols and downloaded every single little dirty secret you had and uploaded it to the internet. You've been hassling Dr. Wells, my friends, and you've evaded justice for too long. Now, you'll get it. Eiling seethed in anger and began ordering his men to dispose of all evidence. The split second Eiling turned away, Naruto vibrated the arm rests he was handcuffed to and loosened a few screws. Eiling then turned back to Naruto and aimed his pistol at his head. Well, if the cat is out of the bag then I won't be needing you. Eiling said, ready to fire, but Naruto gave a harsh tug to the left arm rest and broke it off the chair. He smacked Eiling in the face with it and kicked him away. He yanked the other arm rest off the chair just as one of the men in suits rushed over and hit him in the throat, kicked out his left leg and smacked him in the face. He spun and smacked the arm rests into the other man and woman in suits before spin kicking the scientist in the face and knocking him out. Eiling reached over for the gun but Naruto kicked it away. You should really do regular maintenance on those chairs. Naruto told him before knocking him out with a smack to the head from the armrest. He vibrated his hands and broke the handcuffs off before grabbing Eiling's keycard. Now, time to finish the plan. Naruto walked out of the interrogation room and made his way down the hallway when two soldiers stopped him at gunpoint. Freeze! They ordered as Naruto stopped when an alarm went off. Guess my friends showed up. Naruto used this distraction and closed the distance to the soldiers, kicked one in the groin and elbowed the other in the face. He pushed the soldier in the wall, punched him in the side, grabbed his assault rifle and aimed it at the other soldier before kicking his foot and causing the soldier to shoot the gun by accident and the bullet hit the other soldier in the arm. Naruto pulled a gun from the soldier and smacked him in the head with it, knocking him out before turning and smacking the other soldier in the face with the gun like it was a baseball bat. Naruto dropped the gun and pulled out the secret phone he hid in his shoe that uploaded the Technivore virus to see how it was doing, and it had just finished disabling the internal security cameras. Nice. Now I can stretch my legs. Naruto began speeding through the entire base and tied up all the soldiers, technicians, and scientists while collecting all the hard copy data he would need and preventing any of Eiling's men from deleting anything. He then made his way into the main data room and used an access terminal to delete all information on metahumans, the Central City Speedsters, and Star Labs while also deleting all weapon designs for metahuman containment. Once he was finished, Naruto strolled out of the base to see all the soldiers tied up or unconscious and all their vehicles were reduced to smoking piles of metal and fire. He looked and saw Barry and Ronnie there. "Hey guys, what took you so long?" Naruto asked. "We were a bit busy with everything here. After your little Snowden moment, the soldiers didn't take too kindly to intruders," Barry told him. "Ronnie, is that you?" Naruto asked. "Both of us. We managed to work out the firestorm thing," Ronnie told him. "And just in time too. I must say we did a very good job," the professor told him. "Well, I got everything we needed and made sure Eiling has nothing on us. Let's get out of here," Naruto said as he and Barry super sped away while Ronnie flew. The rest of the team waited back in Star Labs for the others when 2 whooshes of air appeared and Naruto and Barry were back. "Oh my god." Linda rushed over and hugged him, glad he was okay. "Hey, I'm okay," Naruto assured her. Linda broke off the hug and then slugged him in the gut hard. "Don't ever come up with a stupid plan like that again," she told him as Naruto took a moment to catch his breath. "Painful wheezing, of course, honey," Naruto replied. The others gave him a little space while Naruto took some breaths and made sure he didn't throw up. Once he saw Dr. Wells giving him his patented "you're in trouble" glare, he swallowed the lump in his throat and stood up. "Sorry for worrying you, Dr. Wells. Are you all right?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. A scrape or two but I'm fine. Eiling didn't get anything from me," Naruto assured him. "I could care less about and more that you're safe. I'd caution you against doing something like that again but knowing you, that's a tall order. I'm just glad you're okay." Dr. Wells smiled and shook his hand. "More than okay. We finally got one over on Eiling. Now Betty Sans Susie and a lot of other people will get justice for what he's done," Naruto said before looking at Ronnie. "And it also means he won't after you two anymore. I wiped out any digital or hardcopy trace of Firestorm. No one will be after you." "Thanks, Naruto," Ronnie said. "So, it's nice to see that merging you two went better this time, but can you reverse it?" Linda asked. "I'm game if you are, Mr. Raymond," Stein said. "We could try," Ronnie said. Everyone took a few steps back as Ronnie took a deep breath and concentrated. He began glowing bright red like fire before he separated back into Ronnie Raymond and Professor Stein with the quantum splicer dropping harmlessly to the ground. "I think we're getting the hang of this quite nicely," Stein said. Caitlin hugged Ronnie as the two lovers cherished in each other's embrace. "So, the question is, what do you plan to do now that Eiling is no longer after you?" Barry asked. "Get back to our lives, I believe, but before we can do that I think there is something we should do first," Stein said. "And what's that?" Cisco asked. "Gain a better mastery of our new powers. If this is going to be our new normal, then Ronald and I should be made aware of what it is exactly we can do," Stein said. "Lucky for you, you have all of Star Labs to help out," Naruto assured him. "And I'm grateful for that, Naruto, I truly am," Stein said with a smile. "But if Ronald is all right with it, perhaps a quick trip to Pittsburgh first." "Why, what's in Pittsburgh?" Caitlin asked. "An old colleague of mine by the name of Shiloh Norman. He specializes in quantum nuclear energy and helped me on Project Firestorm. He might be able to give us a better understanding of our powers and master them. Once we do that, we'll return to Star Labs," Stein suggested. "I reckon it won't be longer than a few weeks at most." Ronnie took a moment to look at Caitlin and then at Stein. "Not to worry, Dr. Snow, I assure you we will return," Stein assured her. "Okay," Ronnie said before looking at Caitlin. "I know. You'll be back," Caitlin said, giving him another kiss. "Well, how about you leave tomorrow and tonight we celebrate with dinner?" Naruto suggested. "Sounds good to me, Professor," Ronnie asked. Why not? We shall, as the kids say, party like it's 1969. I'll get Clarissa, Stein said as he left with Barry to get her. Naruto went to his personal lab to put some stuff away. He quickly checked the hallway to make sure he was alone before he connected the secret phone to the computer to upload the information he stole from Eiling's lab. He opened up the files and his gaze lingered on two in particular that were labeled Pre-Particle Accelerator Metahumans and the Nine. Eiling knew something about the Nine and the files he had might give him some information on his parents' killer. Naruto, we're leaving, Cisco shouted. I'm coming, Naruto replied, putting the computer to sleep and leaving. Stein and Ronnie would leave the next morning, which gave her and Ronnie one night before they left for their trip. It wasn't permanent, they would return soon once they got some help on Firestorm. Naruto knew a lot from his research and the data he compiled, but if Stein and Ronnie really wanted to control and understand their new abilities, then they needed a specialist. Things were going good for Team Flash, whereas for General Eiling, they weren't so. With all the leaked information and Linda's scathing article adding to the fire, it cemented Eiling's fate. Eiling had officially been relieved of duty and was now under a pending investigation by the JAG court for his various criminal charges, including illegal use of military funds, unauthorized weapons development, illegal and unsanctioned military operations on U.S. soil, illegal human experiments, and a bunch of other crimes. Even with the best JAG lawyer in the world, there's no way Eiling is getting out of this with a not guilty verdict. He was in his office, downing another glass of whiskey with no ice. He wanted to feel the burn of the alcohol. In one day, his entire military career was torpedoed by a kid with spiky blonde hair. His entire battalion was under investigation as well. His science team was fired and all his research was either public knowledge or erased, so he had no leverage to offer them or something to use against Harrison Wells. He was screwed and he was beyond pissed. All of a sudden a yellow blur grabbed him and he found himself thrown onto hard concrete. Eiling coughed up a lung and threw up the whiskey he just drank as he took in his surroundings. Judging by the darkness, size, running water and smell, he was in a sewer. He turned and saw a vibrating figure in a yellow-black outfit with glowing red eyes. It's good to see you again, General. Who are you? Eiling asked. Who am I? The figure stopped vibrating and removed his mask to reveal it was Harrison Wells. Harrison, you're one of them. A metahuman, Eiling said in anger. Yes, I am. And I protect my own. Wells told him. Are you here to finish what your protege started? Here for another ounce of blood? Eiling asked. I am. I did warn you what would happen if you ever hurt Naruto, and now it's time to make good on my promise. Wells said when a sudden loud growl could be heard through the tunnels. What was that? Eiling asked. Now that is an old friend of ours. Wells replied. General, Eiling heard a voice say in his head. That voice, it's in my head. Eiling said when he heard loud footsteps and saw what was coming for him. Dear God. Not God. Grodd. Eiling was then snatched and taken into the sewer screaming in pain. Line break XXXXX. It had been about a week since the whole Firestorm Eiling thing and things were better. Ronnie and the professor were in the clear from the military, which was a good thing. They were doing fine in Pittsburgh and were gaining more knowledge on Firestorm's powers. Caitlin was in a better mood because her fiancé was alive, and not only that, but he would be back home soon. All in all, it was good. There was one interesting thing that happened, and that was an external metahuman sighting in Detroit by a woman, Mari McCabe. Barry and Oliver dealt with that, and she wasn't a metahuman but had a magical totem, if you believe that. She became a hero of Detroit and called herself Vixen, so they had another person to add to the superhero club. Naruto didn't go because he told them he was busy with work and that having another speedster there seemed like overkill. In truth, he was busy looking over all of Eiling's files, especially the ones on Pre-Particle Accelerator Metahumans and the Nine. Eiling's file on the Nine wasn't that extensive, but it had more information than what he was able to dig up on his own. According to military intelligence, the Nine were a secret group of criminals that controlled other groups around the world. They showed up about maybe 40 years ago and quickly built up power to control various criminal organizations around the world. Asia, Europe, South America, they had their hands in everything. Eiling's filing suggested that they had men and resources inside the Yakuza, Triad, cartels, Bratva, and Mafia all over the world. Granted, none of this was substantiated or proven with actual evidence because the Nine supposedly controlled everything from the shadows and no one knew anything. It honestly made them sound like the boogeymen, but could this even be possible? That was all that was in the file on the Nine, but there a note that read ASA Freeland vaccine trials. That led him to the file on pre-particle accelerator metahumans. According to Eiling's research, the ASA or American Security Agency was a U.S. government organization that supervised internal security measures for the country but officially was shut down after numerous claims of corruption and illegal activities. Eiling took some of their files and they had information on people with abilities, indicating that there were metahumans before the particle accelerator explosion, which he thought was impossible. According to Eiling's personal notes, he suspected that the reason the Nine were able to control over so many criminal organizations was that they had a mole in the ASA and took whatever information they had and gave themselves metahuman powers. Metahuman supervillains who controlled the deadliest criminal organizations around the world, that doesn't sound good. Something interesting in Eiling's files. Naruto jumped out of his skin at the sudden voice. He turned to see Dr. Wells by the doorway and breathed a sigh of relief. Jesus Christ, Dr. Wells. Naruto pat his heart to try and calm him down. You're gonna give someone a heart attack one day if you keep doing that. My apologizes. Dr. Wells entered the room and saw it was littered with calculation sheets and schematic designs for new technology, but the thing that caught his attention was on the far wall. It was a murder board set up about his parents' murder by Mizuki. All relevant information, persons of interest, and suspects were littered on the board with strings tied to each to try and make some sense of it. I see you've taken to the lab as your own. Well, I need someplace to work. Naruto told him. Of course. Dr. Wells replied. You've been keeping yourself very busy the past week. Well, between working and checking on the arc reactor, even with my super speed, it takes up some time. Naruto told him. And checking on Eiling's files you stole from the military base? Dr. Wells asked. Just wanted to see what else he had hidden, and it's a lot. Naruto said, exhaling in both exhaustion and frustration. But no answers to the questions you've had. Dr. Wells said as Naruto nodded. Yeah, Eiling had a file on the Nine, but it was nothing but rumors, theories, and unsubstantiated ideas. It was no help, but he did have a file on metahumans who he thinks predate the particle accelerator explosion. Naruto told him, showing him the file. Really? Dr. Wells asked, curious but hiding the fact that he knew all of this. Yeah, something about the ASA and the Nine possibly being metahumans. Do you think it's possible? I mean, we found out that my dad had a file on me and I had metahuman DNA before the particle accelerator. Naruto suggested. It's a possibility. If I've learned anything the past year with you and Mr. Allen is that the anything can be possible, but we'll need to tread carefully with this new information. You might have taken care of Eiling, but more people like him will arise so long as metahumans exist, and it won't be long before they set their sights on Central City. Dr. Wells told him. Roger that, Naruto said, saving all his files to a special encrypted server for safekeeping. So, is there anything else you need? I figured you didn't come here just to talk about this. You're right. Given all the work you've done with the arc reactor and what you plan on doing in the future, I think it's time to announce Star Labs' re-emergence to the world. Dr. Wells announced. Everything you've been designing is perfect for a press conference to announce Naruto Namikaze joining Star Labs and helping to usher in a new evolution in technology for the world. I've already set up a small press conference outside of Star Labs for next Monday. Are you sure that's a good idea, Dr. Wells? I mean, considering the sort of illegal crime-stopping activities that we do here, is drawing attention to ourselves the best plan? Naruto asked. True, it would draw attention, but it's the kind of attention we need to keep people from figuring out what we're doing here. With everything that's been going on, like the news of your existence and the new metahumans you'll be facing, it won't be long before someone else like Hartley begins to wonder if Star Labs is helping the Flash and Impulse. With this, people will be focused more on the technical and scientific attributes we're making. Dr. Wells explained. All right, I'll trust your move 100%. Naruto replied. Good, because you will be speaking at that event. Dr. Wells told him. Say what now? Naruto asked, doing a double take. No, no, no. I'm not that great with public speaking. Why do I have to talk? You should do it or get Cisco or Caitlin to help. Many of the breakthroughs we'll be announcing were created by you, so it's only right that you speak at this event. Don't worry, I have faith in you. Dr. Wells said before leaving. Great, as if public speaking was bad enough, I have to do it on the most important day ever. Naruto said to himself, calling Linda for help. A few days passed until it was Monday and the big reveal of Star Labs was taking place. There was a small stage, podium, and monitor set up outside of Star Labs where the press conference would take place. Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco would be sitting on the stage while visiting scientists, investors, and journalists would be there. The fact that Harrison Wells himself called for the press conference with information regarding Star Labs attracted some attention. Naruto was dressed up in a business suit to his chagrin, but Linda and Tsunade insisted on it. It was a regular navy business suit with a white shirt and crimson tie. Naruto took a deep breath as he looked at the crowd of people here for the press conference, and there was a good amount. Joe and Barry were here and Ino was with Barry. It was nice that his friends were here. Iris, Linda, and dozens of other journalists and news reporters in the crowd, and a special section were set up for city officials like Captain Singh and the mayor. How Dr. Wells managed to get the mayor here is beyond him. Yip. Naruto felt Kurama brush up against his leg and knelt down to pet him on the head. Oh, buddy, you're lucky you don't have to worry about stuff like this. Naruto scratched him behind the ears and he happily nuzzled into his hand. Sorry I haven't spent that much time with you lately. Guess I haven't realized how busy I've been getting. Yip. Kurama happily nuzzled against Naruto's leg and licked him on the hand. I'm glad you're here, buddy. I just hope I don't puke when I get up there. I'm so nervous that I feel like my stomach's doing the tango. Naruto said. Here. Naruto looked and saw a small flask held out in front of him by Tsunade, who was dressed in her fancy gray and green dress which did its best to contain her massive bust. Next to her was Shizune, who was dressed in a nice black business suit, and Taunton, who had on a cute tiny business jacket for his size. You can't get drunk, so maybe the booze can at least calm you. Thanks. Naruto took the flask and downed the whole thing in a few seconds. No, it doesn't work. You didn't have to drink the whole thing. Tsunade took the flask and put it in her purse. Don't worry, Naruto, you're gonna do great. Shizune assured him. All the kids from the shelter are here to wish you good luck. Naruto smiled at all the kids who were attending the event and they all waved at him. Cisco and Caitlin were keeping them company for the time being until the conference started. You can do this. You know science better than anyone. Tsunade assured him. Yeah, sure, but I'm not the best with public speaking. Naruto told her. No one is. Just imagine everyone in their underwear and it'll make you less nervous. Tsunade told him. Okay. Right, that'll work. Naruto said, closing his eyes and imagining everyone naked, but it didn't work. It's not working. I'm even more nervous now. Tsunade, Shizune, and Kurama sweat dropped in exhaustion at him. Only someone who can save the city from metahumans and build a device that will help the planet's reliance on fossil fuel would be afraid of public speaking. Iris was over by Linda and their coworker Mason Bridge. She got her tape recorder and notepad ready when she looked over to Naruto and saw him talking to two women. Hey, Linda, who are the two women by Naruto? She asked. Oh, that's Tsunade and Shizune. They run the shelter Naruto stays at. They're kind of like family to him. Linda explained as Iris found herself staring at Tsunade's bust size, having a hard time believing those were real and feeling a little jealous. A little jealous? I was too when I first met her. Excuse me, everyone. Dr. Wells spoke into the microphone at the podium. Sorry for the wait, but I believe we can begin our press conference now. Everyone quieted down and stood at attention for the press conference. Tsunade, Shizune, and Kurama walked over to the kids while Naruto, Cisco, and Caitlin took their seats on stage. Thank you, everyone, for coming here. We're lucky enough that the weather is cooperating with us today on this momentous occasion. The last time I spoke in front of Star Labs, it was for a different occasion that seemed like a lifetime ago. This occasion, I assure you, is for different reason. The past year, I've wondered what to do with the plans for the future of Star Labs and my own personal future. I'm glad to announce that today, Star Labs is taking one step forward to helping people once again as we did before. For today's announcement, I would like to introduce the man who will be speaking to you about what we have to offer, newly instated co-owner of Star Labs, Naruto Namikaze. Everyone clapped as Dr. Wells pointed to Naruto, who was frozen in his chair. Did Dr. Wells really just do that? Naruto asked Caitlin. He did. Now go. Caitlin pushed him out of the chair and he walked over to the podium. Dr. Wells joined Caitlin and Cisco while Naruto began to get nervous looking at the group he was speaking to. He spared one more look at Dr. Wells, who ushered him to go on. Naruto took a deep breath and cleared his throat. Thank you, Dr. Wells, for that introduction and for dropping the bomb on me to only make me more nervous. I think the reason Dr. Wells wanted me to speak is because he knows just how terrified I am at public speaking. Naruto joked as the crowd chuckled. I had some cards for this, but I think I'll just wing it. Before we start, I just want to take a moment to assure everyone that Star Labs isn't going to make the same mistakes of the past. As scientists, we're so focused on advancing the cause of science that we often neglect or ignore common sense and forget to ask should we instead of could we. The particle accelerator was a tragedy that could have been avoided. Dr. Wells has already gone on record about the catastrophe that ravaged this city nearly 2 years ago. We failed this city and it had to deal with the consequences. People loved lost ones, damage was done, and lives were changed forever. As much as you must be tired of hearing this, no amount of condolences can be made to make up for what happened and for those that have suffered. Naruto glanced over at Dr. Wells, who smiled and nodded. Today, Star Labs is making a vow to not repeat the mistakes of the past and to once again help everyone. The people you see before you, Dr. Caitlin Snow, Francisco Ramon, Dr. Wells and myself have been working on solving new problems that the world faces now. The problems that the next few generations are going to face will be the most important and the hardest in human history. Climate change, diminishing resources, and pollution are just a few of the problems facing our planet. Serious action needs to be taken, which is what we've done. Naruto nodded to Cisco, who pressed a button on his phone to activate the massive screen to show the Star Labs logo. It then changed to reveal a chemical formula named oxohydrine bacteria. What you see before you on the monitor is the first step in combating pollution and climate change. It's no surprise that our planet is facing ecological change due to carbon emissions, pollution and such, so Star Labs' first contribution to help with that is what you see before you. Oxyhydrine bacteria, a man-made bacterium devised with the help of Dr. Caitlin Snow that is capable of dissolving away plastics, garbage and other wasteful materials that are thrown into landfills or dumped into our oceans. Cisco changed to the next slide to show a video of the bacteria at work. The bacteria was applied to a small group of floating garbage in water, and to the crowd's amazement, it ate away at the garbage like they were being dissolved by acid and released a gas. The gas the bacteria releases from the reaction then evaporates into the air and counteracts the overabundance of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to help with global warming. Zero chance of contamination or further pollution, and a viable first step reducing carbon emissions and fixing our planet's climate and environment. It's the first step but not the only one. Cisco changed the monitor again to show a high-tech radar installation and laboratory. This is Star Labs' monitoring station, designed as the first line of defense for protecting the wellness of the public in our cities. With the hopes to install one in every major city in the country, these stations put as much emphasis on helping to fix our local environmental issues as our global ones. Each station is designed with a highly advanced monitoring system to check on air quality for pollution contaminants and analyze the problem so steps can be taken before it's too late. They can monitor city infrastructure to predict if a gas line needs repairing or analyze the local plant and wildlife to determine any issues that need to be addressed. Our local problems are just as important as the global ones. Naruto spoke as the reporters wrote down as fast as they could write and the cameras recorded everything. But Star Labs isn't just dedicated to helping the environment because we plan to do a lot with defense projects as well. I've had the privilege of working alongside some of CCPD's finest and have seen how dangerous their job can be, so we've designed some things for them as well as other police forces. Naruto said as Cisco turned to the next slide to reveal the schematics for advanced body armor. With the help of Cisco Ramon, we've designed the next iteration of body armor protection. This is the Star Labs EX-01 body armor. More advanced and powerful than anything on the market at the moment, this body armor is the ideal protection for anyone in law enforcement or the military. With the specialized interwoven and energy absorption material, this body armor is capable of blocking high-caliber rounds from assault rifles and even armor-piercing high-powered sniper rifles. Cisco then showed them the test footage they ran a few weeks ago on the first prototype, and it showed that the vest was able to stop the penetration of a high-caliber sniper round from point-blank range. Lighter than typical body armors and available in different formats to protect more of the body, this armor will soon be made available, and the first order of 200 will be provided to the CCPD without charge for their proud service to the city. Naruto announced as people clapped. He glanced over at Captain Singh, who smiled and nodded in appreciation. We will also be providing a new lighter form of body armor for undercover use as well. Cisco switched the monitor to show an ordinary business suit. The suit you see before you on the screen is not your typical suit. It is a specially created prototype for advanced concealment and urban warfare when there isn't time to use a typical body armor vest. The video played to show someone shoot the suit with 12 bullets from a 9mm pistol and revealed that the bullets didn't penetrate the suit. It was revealed that the lining of the suit was stitched with some kind of fabric that stopped the bullets from penetration, to the crowd's amazement. Made of customized silicate carbide discs, ceramic matrices, special laminate and polymers, this is the most cutting-edge body armor on the planet. Providing zero penetration for small to medium firearms, this armor can be stitched into the lining of regular clothing such as suits or police uniforms, ensuring that our officers are always protected from danger. Of course, while the armor provides protection from the bullets, the impact will still sting a bit, so I suggest wearing padded clothing underneath. The crowd chuckled a bit at that joke. Our last defense prototype is something I'm very excited about because it issues in a new era for suppression and non-lethal firearms. The life of a law enforcement officer is challenging enough, so Star Labs is proud to announce a new form of non-lethal weaponry for apprehending criminals. Naruto announced, so Cisco brought up the schematics and designs for Project ICER. The screen showed various black and blue high-tech weapons ranging from 9mm and .45 caliber pistols to high-powered sniper rifle versions. I give you Project ICER. Incapacitating cartridge-emitting railguns. These ICERs are the ideal equipment for non-lethal combat and excellent for apprehending criminals. Thanks to the dutiful mind of Francisco Ramon, we've designed these weapons with the sole purpose of incapacitating a subject without further harm. The key is in the ammunition used. A specialized and patented dendrotoxin that is capable of inducing instant paralysis and unconsciousness when a subject is hit. The dendrotoxin bullet casing breaks up under subcutaneous tissue and the subject is subdued for 2 hours. This ensures no further harm is caused to the officer, the assailant, and anyone else. Naruto explained as Joe and officers attending the event were intrigued with the weapons. I hope everything you've seen before you today shows that Star Labs is dedicating its time and effort into helping people. Now, before we leave it to questions, there is one more thing we're proud to show you. He nodded to Cisco, who brought up the next image, which was of live camera footage of the arc reactor inside Star Labs. The site you see before you is the next step in clean and renewable energy, the Star Labs arc reactor. It was designed by my parents, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, and together they wanted to create a power source that could help the world's reliance on fossil fuels and help the environment, and their hard work left behind a legacy that I wanted to see become a reality. With the help of my colleagues and friends at Star Labs and assistance from my good friend Barry Allen, we built the world's answer to new clean, renewable energy. The arc reactor you see before you uses a palladium plasma reaction to generate a cyclical high-density muon energy reaction within the reactor ring. This energy builds upon itself, ensuring that the arc reactor is able to generate more renewable energy than anything else on the planet. This got everyone's attention as Naruto's proclamation was grand but seemed like a typical scientist boasting. I understand that this may seem like a typical scientist trying to boast, so I will provide you with specifics. Naruto said so. Cisco changed the monitor to show actual data and energy output from the reactor. The arc reactor is our solution to fixing the world's reliance on diminishing energy sources. Fossil fuels aren't unlimited, and within the next few decades, it's conceivable that we will diminish the planet's supply of natural gas, oil, and coal. Scientists and governments have been looking into other forms of energy to try and reduce the reliance on sources that we've relied on for so many years, and we've made much advancement in that area. Solar, hydro, geothermal, wind, and biomass energy are being used to offset the reliance on fossil fuels, but much more development is needed in these areas. Nuclear energy can be used to generate a large quantity of electricity and can be safe and sustainable if under the right conditions, but carries with it a lot of risk and danger. If something were to happen to the reactor or an accident were to occur, then the consequences could be devastating. The Chernobyl disaster, 3 Mile Island accident, and the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster are examples of what happens with nuclear energy as something goes wrong. This is where the arc reactor shines, as its design ensure no fallout, disaster or harm would occur if a system or mechanical failure were to occur. Cisco brought up some more information to back up Naruto's point and his findings that the scientists could understand, but everyone else was left scratching their heads in confusion. Essentially, if something were to happen to the reactor that caused a malfunction, or if it were to blow up, the only things that would happen would be a small explosion, and we would have wasted time and money in building said reactor. Naruto joked, which drew a few chuckles. All of that aside, the arc reactor is able to generate an enormous amount of energy unlike anything seen. An average nuclear power plant is able to generate up to 1,280,000 kilowatt-hours of energy, but considering energy consumption for the factory itself, the plant can provide energy to about 200,000 homes on a monthly basis. Granted, this number is a general estimate. That, along with next to zero carbon emissions, makes it a viable alternative to the dominant energy sources we have. The arc reactor on the screen can generate that same amount of energy, at only 10% operating power. Naruto let that sink in as he heard some gasps and murmurs from the crowd. Yes, you heard correct. The reactor you see before you is currently built inside of Star Labs and has been operational for approximately. Naruto took a moment to look at his watch and take a pause for dramatic effect. 3 weeks, 2 days, 1 hour and 17 seconds. It's only been at 3% operating power, but it's been more than enough for all of Star Labs. We've been off the city's electrical grid for all that time with zero technical issue. The arc reactor is designed to output energy for use, but to also cycle and create new energy as well, making it the ideal renewable energy source. If the reactor is kept at optimal levels and cared for, then at 100% operating efficiency, this reactor will be able to provide enough energy to power all of Central City and its surrounding suburbs and boroughs for years, if not decades, with zero waste emission and damage to the environment. Pending political and logistical talks with the city council and leaders, Star Labs will be ready to provide clean, renewable and cheaper energy to all of its citizens. It's a brave new legacy for Star Labs, and this is its start. Thank you. Everyone clapped and cheered as the presentation was over, and Naruto breathed a sigh of relief that he made it through the presentation without vomiting or making an idiot of himself. Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco applauding, and Barry and Joe cheered him on. Linda, Tsunade, and Shizune couldn't have been more proud of him. This was his big moment and he nailed it. Naruto gestured for Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco to join him by the podium so they could answer questions. We have some time to take questions from the audience, Dr. Wells said as dozens of reporters raised their hands. He looked around and pointed at the closest one. Mr. Namikaze, How soon do you plan on implementing your pollution-fighting bacteria to help the environment? One of the reporters asked. As soon as possible would be best, but given the amount of legal and logistical footprints we would need to go through to legally do that will take some time, but hopefully we can start with the pollution in Central City first. Naruto answered. Next question. Dr. Wells called out and pointed to another reporter. Dr. Wells, given everything that's happened with Star Labs, are you comfortable handing over half of your company to Naruto Namikaze? One of the reporters asked. Of course. I trust Naruto with my legacy and know that he will help push Star Labs into doing great things. Our presentation today shows that given all the projects were designed by him. Naruto has a brilliant mind, and the fact that he doesn't have an advanced degree is just semantics. Dr. Wells stated. Dr. Wells, after everything Star Labs has already done to this city, can we really take any word that this arc reactor does what it says it does? Mason Bridge asked. Of course, you have every right to be skeptical given what has happened in the past, and it's more than understandable, and we're taking steps to show everyone that this is not the case. Dr. Wells replied. And if I might add, Mr. Bridge, I understand that you'll want to spin this in a negative light for your article and try to paint all of Star Labs as dangerous in your slander piece, but I can assure you and everyone else that my parents' lifelong work into the arc reactor was carefully thought out and worked over for years. They were two of this planet's greatest minds, and we've reviewed and improved their work to build the reactor you saw today, and what it can do is nothing short of mind-blowing. We're providing the information on the arc reactor to the public as well as the Board of Safety Commission so that everyone can have peace of mind that the reactor is safe and does what we've said it will. You'll want to review that for your article, but given that it is advanced science and you likely don't have more than high school science knowledge, you'll want some help with understanding it, Mr. Bridge. Naruto added, keeping a smile on his face while everyone chuckled at the little sting and shade sent his direction. Caitlin and Cisco hid their chuckles while Iris smiled at Mason being put a little in his place. Oh, the shade thrown. Iris said to him. Mr. Namikaze, do you have any plans to expand the building of these arc reactors to other cities and countries? Another reporter asked. That is the hope. Cheap, renewable energy is something that all of mankind deserves, and given that Star Labs and myself have the patent and right to this technology, we plan to ensure that that is the case. We'll want to expand to every country available in the future, but the first step would be to see if we can get the reactor up and running for all of Central City first. Naruto replied. And when do you plan to do that? Another reporter asked. Once talks with the mayor, city leadership, and governor are done. We've already submitted a request for the Public Utility Commission for a certificate to offer electrical services, so once that is done, we'll be in talks with the city manager about setting energy rates and distributing the energy from the arc reactor to the rest of the city. Cisco and I have already designed and set up methods for distributing the electricity that comply with federal regulations. Naruto answered. Mr. Namikaze, do you have any comment on the energy companies that will feel threatened by your announcement today? A reporter asked. I'm not doing this to threaten the other energy companies or make a declarative statement against them. All we plan to do is provide an alternative energy source for everyone. No different than the first solar panel company or hydro dam that was built. Everything we do is to help people and the planet. Naruto replied. I think we have time for one final question. Dr. Wells announced before seeing Linda with her hand up. Ms. Park, do you have a question? Yes, Mr. Namikaze, if your parents were here now, what would you like to say to them? Linda asked as Naruto took a moment to think of what they would say if they were alive and what he would say to them. Given the new things he's learned and the questions he still had, he wasn't sure what to think. If my parents were here, I just hope that they would be proud of what I've been trying to accomplish. Naruto answered and Linda nodded, writing that down. Thank you everyone for attending today. Today is just the beginning of what I hope to be a long legacy. Everyone gave one more round of applause as Naruto and the others stepped down from the stage while other reporters shouted questions and photographers took photos. Naruto stepped down from the stage and breathed out a giant sigh of relief, feeling the stress of speaking to the crowd leave his body, and he could finally relax. Dear God, I never want to do something like that again. Naruto said. Only someone like you could be nervous when speaking to a crowd yet be okay with going against someone like General Eiling. Caitlin replied. What can I say? I'm unique. He told her. Linda rushed over and jumped onto him with a flying hug. Naruto caught her and kissed the side of her head, holding her close. So, how'd I do? You did great. Were you nervous because I couldn't tell? It was like you had been doing that for years. She told him. I was beyond nervous. I'm just glad it's over. Naruto replied as Barry, Joe and Ino walked over. Nicely done there, Naruto. I can think of a lot of cops who are going to be happy if your body armor actually works. Joe told him. Joe, I'm offended. Everything I build works. Naruto replied, holding his hand over his heart in a mock joke that he was hurt. Don't worry, I'm willing to bet all of the money in the trust fund my parents left that the vests will work as I described them. All right, I'll take your word for it. I've known you long enough to know how weirdly lucky you are when it comes to bets and gambling. Joe said. Of course. How do you think I helped Tsunade with her gambling debts? Naruto asked. Tsunade, Shizune, Kurama, and the kids walked over, and when Tsunade heard what Naruto said, she began pouting. 30 years of her life and all she's done is pile on debt while one day at a casino and I wipe it clean for her. Oh, shut it you brat. Tsunade huffed, which made everyone chuckle. Mr. Naruto, one of the kids walked over with a small notepad. Can I get an autograph? You don't need to ask me that. I'm more than happy to. Naruto replied with a smile, happily signing his name. He signed his name a few more times with the kids from the shelter who he loved like his own. Okay, now that the press conference is over and everything is set, tonight we celebrate, and to do that, everyone here is invited out to dinner. My treat. Sounds good to me, Cisco said. Dr. Wells, I suppose one night out won't kill me. Dr. Wells replied. Good, because everyone here, including you guys, Naruto tussled some of the kids' hair, will have their bellies full of great food tonight. I called ahead and reserved the entire restaurant at a Korean barbecue place, and tonight we'll give them the most profitable night of their lives. Yeah, the kids shouted, excited for the meal. Dear Lord, the flash and impulse at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, that place will run out of food by the end of the night. Linda whispered to Caitlin. I'd give it an hour. She whispered back when she noticed someone walking over. He was an older gentleman, probably in his late 30s, and was wearing a designer suit. By his side was an older man, dressed like a butler. When they got close, Caitlin recognized the younger man in the designer suit as Bruce Wayne, billionaire philanthropist from Gotham City. Oh my God, I think that's Bruce Wayne. Mr. Namikaze, Bruce said, getting Naruto's attention. Naruto turned and he recognized Bruce Wayne as well. Owner of Wayne Enterprises, one of the biggest companies in the world, and the guy was a billionaire. Mr. Wayne, it's a pleasure to meet you. Naruto shook his hand and noticed the very hard grip and calloused hands. Really, it's an honor, and please call me Naruto. Well, Naruto, I just want to say that I enjoyed your presentation. It's safe to say that what you're doing here at Star Labs is very different what Mr. Fox has told me. Bruce admitted. If it's at all possible, perhaps we can discuss a partnership and maybe setting up an arc reactor in Gotham City. Or at the very least get some of your pollution technology up and running for Gotham. Naruto's eyes lit up in excitement. Working with Wayne Enterprises was huge. Of course. It'd be an honor. Excellent. I'll have someone from my office contact you with the details. Congratulations. Bruce shook his hand and left with a smile. Everyone looked at Naruto, who seemed to be frozen in shock and excitement. Holy crap, I just met Bruce Wayne and he wants to work with us. I can die happy now. Naruto said as Linda helped him move over to the car. New York City. In an abandoned warehouse in the Bronx, everything seemed to be normal when all of a sudden the sound of gunfire and screaming came out of nowhere. Whatever happened seemed to indicate that whatever group was doing the firing was also losing. Screams of pain and agony could be heard as the sound of gunfire diminished until there was no sound at all. Then a body was flung from a window and landed on the ground outside. Said body was a man of Japanese heritage who was dressed in typical gangster rags and had elaborate Japanese-inspired tattoos all over his body, showing that he clearly affiliated with the Yakuza. The tattoos signified how many victims they personally killed and was a badge of honor for the organization. Unfortunately, all that boasting was nothing for whoever attacked him and the others. The Yakuza member crawled away in an attempt to get away to safety, but it was in vain. The sound of crunching glass against boots closed in and he was soon turned over and grabbed by the neck. He was then lifted up into the air with his feet dangling off the ground and got one last glimpse of his attacker. Said attacker was tall, about 6 cubic feet, and was wearing a black tactical combat uniform shirt and pants with matching combat boots. He had a dark red tactical vest over his shirt, lightweight metal mesh armor on his wrists and ankles, with metal handguard and gloves. He had a black mask on his face with a metal forehead protector with the kanji for oil imprinted on it. He had 2 pistols strapped to his waist and a large scroll slung across his back. "Screw you," the Yakuza member said in Japanese. "No, screw you. Now you're lucky because the rest of your little group is currently splattered all over the floor and walls of that warehouse. If you don't want to join them, then give me some useful information." The figure replied, speaking in Japanese as well, and sounded very threatening. "I'm not scared of you," the Yakuza replied as his attacker reached behind him and touched the large scroll on his back. He grabbed the end of the scroll, rotated it 45 degrees clockwise, and a pop was heard, showing that the scroll was actually a container that held weapons. He reached inside and pulled out a short-style Japanese wakizashi blade. The blade was dark green and handle was silver with kanji etchings on the metal that read "The Great Toad Sage." "You will be," he warned him, and soon screams of pain could be heard blocks away. No later than 30 seconds after the screaming, 4 police cruisers speed into the area with sirens ablaze. They swerved into the warehouse parking lot and got out of the car with their guns ready, only to see the aftermath of an attack. Broken glass, spent bullet casings, and blood. Some officers moved over to the warehouse and peeked inside to see a lot of bodies, while one officer rushed over to see one Yakuza enforcer on the ground curled up in a ball. He was bloody and beaten and looked like he was put through hell and traumatized. The officer quickly called in paramedics and additional officers to secure the area along with an ESU squad. Unbeknownst to them, the mysterious attacker was crouched on the roof across the street before seemingly vanishing. Said attacker entered his safe house, which was set up with weapons, a powerful laptop set up, a secured server, and anything else someone on the run would need. He took his mask off to reveal his long spiky white hair, brown eyes, and red tattoo lines down his face. He was around 60 years old but didn't look it, keeping himself in excellent shape, and whatever he was doing to his body and face was clearly working. He took off his scroll container and walked over to the computer to upload some information and track down another lead. He looked at the far wall to see a blurry image that had been digitally enhanced on a faraway figure. The picture was still a little blurry, but it was clear enough to make out one individual with long black hair, pale skin, and the faint glint of a yellow eye. The man began plotting a point and arranging a safe house for Starling City when a breaking news report came up. The news report was about the reveal of the new Star Labs co-owner Naruto Namikaze and his groundbreaking advancements in science, including the arc reactor. The man looked at the report and smiled before glancing over to the bed to see an old photo of him years ago with Minato Namikaze, Kushina Uzumaki, and an 11-year-old Naruto. "I suppose one quick trip to Central City might be in order," he said to himself. Line break XXXXX. Naruto woke up with a delightful yawn as he sat up in bed. He rubbed his eyes and noticed he wasn't in his room at the shelter when he remembered that after that massive buffet dinner last night, which racked up a lot of dishes, cost a lot of money but made the restaurant very happy, he went to Linda's after helping Tsunade and Shizune put the kids to bed. He looked to his left and saw her passed out on the bed, her hair sprawled out on the pillow. Made her look adorable. Naruto leaned down and kissed her on the shoulder, which made her groan and push him away. "No, Naruto. It hurts too much." Linda groaned, causing him to chuckle. "Never in my life have I envied your ability to not get drunk." Chuckles, "Guess you can have too much of a good thing," Naruto told her. If by good think you mean soju, then yes. Linda groaned in pain. I'll get to work on breakfast and a hangover cure. Naruto said, getting out of bed and dressed. Extra bacon, please, she mumbled. Naruto worked on breakfast and making Tsunade's hangover cure for Linda once she decided to get out of bed. Naruto munched on some toast while he finished preparing the rest of breakfast when the local news mentioned Star Labs. Naruto grabbed the remote and raised the volume so he could listen. And in local news, Star Labs' recent press conference and put the science world on its heels as its new co-owner Naruto Namikaze has revealed the latest advancements in pollution reparation and defense technology. But the biggest wave comes in light of the reveal of the new Star Labs arc reactor, the next generation in clean and renewable energy that seems to be working on the planet's reliance on fossil fuels and other forms of energy. At the press conference, Naruto Namikaze has gone on record to state that the arc reactor has enough energy to power all of Central City and its surrounding suburbs for decades, and while that may seem like an outlandish statement, it would appear to be correct. Documentation on the reactor has been made public, and statements from scientists at Hudson University, Central City University and even far as MIT have concluded that the arc reactor will do as its creator said it would. It would appear that the arc reactor might very well be the solution to the world's energy problems, and it all starts here in Central City. The news reporter said, making Naruto smile in pride. What's going on? Linda asked, walking into the living room in her robe. Nothing. Just the news. Naruto lowered the volume and walked over, giving her a kiss. You might not want to do that. I have morning breath, she told him, but he chuckled and gave her another kiss. Worth it, he said, pulling her close and nuzzling his head into her hair. She pulled back and looked at him, combing her hands through her hair. Only someone who loves you would risk a kiss with morning breath. Especially one after a night of Korean barbecue, beer and soju. Guess you do love me. Linda smiled as she kissed him. Always. Naruto leaned down and kissed her neck, playfully biting at her skin and hitting a tender spot which made her moan. She moved her hands down to his abs and rubbed them over, but they were soon interrupted by Naruto's phone ringing. Damn it. It's okay, answer it. I'll be taking a shower. Linda walked over to the bathroom, dropping her robe in the hallway and giving him a wink. Naruto bit his lip before huffing and answering his phone. Hello. Naruto answered. Naruto, it's Shizune. Can you come to the shelter right now? It's an emergency, she told him. I'm on my way. Naruto set up on plate of breakfast for Linda, gobbling up some toast and super sped back to the shelter. He walked in through the front door, ready to deal with whatever situation he could think of, only to see the kids grouped up by the wall and peeking into the kitchen. What's going on? Some weird guy showed up and Tsunade punched him. One of the kids said as Naruto walked into the kitchen to see a fuming and furious Tsunade with her smoking fist, having just punched someone. Shizune sighed in exhaustion when she saw Naruto and rushed over. Naruto, thank God you're here, she said. Yeah, I came over right away. What's going on? Naruto asked. What's going on is some pervert tried to touch the girl, so I punched him. Tsunade replied. Naruto glanced over and saw the window was broken with glass was on the floor. She really punched him hard enough that he was sent flying through the window. Ouch. Okay, but if she handled it, why call me? Do you want me to call Joe? Naruto asked. No, we called you because before Tsunade punched him, he said he knew you. Shizune explained. Naruto walked out the kitchen and out of the shelter with Shizune following him. He walked over and saw the broken window, so he followed the flight path of whoever was punched and saw a pair of legs protruding from a bush. That's him. Naruto grabbed one of the legs and pulled, yanking the man out of the bush and dropping him onto the floor. He got a good look at the mystery man and saw he was wearing brown shoes, green pants and shirt with a red vest, along with a large scroll on his back. Naruto recognized the outfit and the spiky white hair, and his hand tightened into a fist. Said man lifted his head and spit out some leaves before shaking his head. Whoa, that is one heck of a woman. I do love a girl who can fight, he said to himself, only to hear someone clearing their throat. He turned around and saw the cute friend to the busty blonde and the person he was looking for. Hey, kid, Long time no see. Naruto then sucker punched him in the face and knocked him out. You never change at all, you old pervert. Even after 3 years. Naruto said in anger. Who is he? Shizune asked. She only saw Naruto this angry when he found out the truth about his parents' murder. He's my godfather, Jiraiya. Naruto told her. He grabbed Jiraiya by the foot and dragged him over by the side of the building. He grabbed the water hose and sprayed him in the face, waking him up. Get up and go, you old pervert. Is that any way to treat your own godfather, kid? Jiraiya asked, wiping the water off his face only for Naruto to splash him once more. That wasn't very nice. That's how I treat an old pervert who clearly hasn't done any maturing and has been gone without so much as a single word for the past 3 years. Naruto told him, splashing him one last time because it was funny. Why the hell are you here and how did you find me? It wasn't that hard to find where you lives, kid. I am amazing after all. Jiraiya took a pause before standing up in a dramatic pose. For I am the great and mighty Jiraiya. Devilishly handsome sage and seeker of justice whom the ladies love. Shizune's sweat dropped while Naruto's left eye just twitched in anger. You were an idiot when I was kid and you're still an idiot now. Naruto bluntly told him and Jiraiya fell to the ground. Oh, relax kid. Besides, your good, spry, and devilishly handsome godfather came for a visit and is that how you treat him? Jiraiya asked only for Naruto to punch him in the face and knock him out again. We can go inside now. Naruto told her as he walked back to the front door. What about him? Shizune pointed to the unconscious Jiraiya. Leave him. Trust me, he's had worse. Naruto told her. She reluctantly agreed and followed him back inside. Shizune ushered the kids back to their rooms while Naruto used his super speed and fixed the broken window along with cleaning up the glass. Tsunade got back to cooking lunch for the kids but saw Naruto sitting down at the kitchen table. He was still angry after that little scuffle. Are you all right? She asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Just never thought I'd see him ever again. He replied. You never mentioned a godfather before. Tsunade pointed out. Because I haven't ever heard word of him in 3 years. Quite frankly, I thought he was dead. He never even showed up for the funeral. Naruto told her. Tsunade saw how much seeing Jiraiya seemed to open up old wounds, so she walked over and held his hand. I'm okay. I just needed to get that out of my system. Whatever reason he has for showing up, 3 years too late. Ah, don't be like that, kid. He heard and saw Jiraiya standing there in the doorway to the kitchen. You know you missed me. Like a dog misses a trip to the vet. Naruto said, seeing him standing there like nothing was wrong. How did you even get back in? Door was unlocked. Jiraiya pointed. Well, use it and leave before I have Tsunade get another shot at you. As hard as I punch, she punches harder. Or have you forgotten? He asked only for Tsunade to crack her knuckles in a threatening manner which made Jiraiya gulp. I'm not here to fight kid or cause any more trouble. Jiraiya told him. Then what are you doing here? Naruto asked. I came to see you. Isn't that part of a godfather's job? He asked. Naruto stood up and walked over to him. When have you ever actually been a godfather? Sorry Jiraiya, but 3 years too late. Naruto flat out told him and saw Jiraiya did his best to hold back a look of failure. I have to get to work. I'll be back to help with dinner, Tsunade. Naruto grabbed Kurama and left the shelter to head to Star Labs. Jiraiya took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of his nose. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought, but I figured this would be how he would react. Jiraiya said to himself. What did you expect? You're his godfather and you've been gone for 3 years. When we first met him he said he didn't have any family. Tsunade told him. Believe me, nothing kills me more than not being there for the kid when he needed me. Jiraiya admitted to her. But it's more complicated than you think. There's a lot the kid doesn't know about what I do and I can't explain it to him. Naruto's smarter than you realize. I'm sure he'd understand why you've been gone for so long if you explain it to him. She said. It's not that he's not smart enough, it's for his own safety. Jiraiya told her, which just confused her. Naruto can handle a lot more than you think. She told him. This is something that not even Impulse can handle. Jiraiya warned her and saw she was shocked he knew that name. Once Naruto was clear of the shelter, he super sped over to Big Belly Burger to get something to eat and calm him down, which worked. He arrived at Star Labs with a leftover milkshake and Kurama by his side. They walked inside and took the elevator up to the Cortex. Naruto casually sipped his milkshake and made his way into the Cortex to see Dr. Wells, Caitlin, and Cisco. Morning, everyone. Naruto greeted them with a wave and took a sip of his milkshake. Kurama walked over by Caitlin and jumped onto a nearby chair. Caitlin scratched him on the head as Kurama curled up for a nap. Oh, too loud, Cisco said, sipping some coffee. Too much soju last night? Naruto asked. That and too much beer. I think Cisco overdid it last night. Dr. Wells explained. Hey, when someone is offering to pay for everything and that someone is rich, you take advantage. Cisco told them, taking some Advil for his headache. Well, you're not the only one. Linda was hungover too, Naruto explained. So, besides the morning hangovers, I got a glimpse of the morning news and the word about Star Labs is going great. You're right. Pretty much everything on the news this morning is about Star Labs. Believe it or not, I actually got a call from my mom about the news. Caitlin said. Wow, that is good. Cisco said. I got a voicemail from my mom about the press conference. Granted, I was really hungover when I woke up, so I didn't really hear anything. And our stock prices have gone up. You've done it, Naruto. You've helped put Star Labs on the right path forward. I couldn't be more proud. Dr. Wells said to him. Our shipment of armor vests and icers were already sent to the CCPD and our bacteria is ready for use in Central City. Excellent. What about the mayor and the whole arc reactor powering the city thing? Naruto asked. They've set up a meeting for next week. Dr. Wells said. Great. Nothing could go wrong today. Naruto said when the computer got a request for a video chat from Felicity. Hey, it's Felicity. Wonder what Team Arrow needs. Cisco said, leaning back in his chair and getting some rest. Naruto answered the video chat request and saw her in the bunker, but it had some security improvements. Hey, Felicity. Hey, Naruto. Awesome press conference by the way. When do you plan on building one of those arc reactors in Starling? She asked. Let me get the one we have here up and running for all of Central City and see how that goes. After that, I'll see what I can do about setting up a monitoring station and then another arc reactor. Is everything okay? I couldn't help but notice the extra security in the bunker. Naruto told her. Believe me, I wish things were okay, but they're not. We've got Malcolm Merlin as a best friend because we have the League of Assassins breathing down our necks, so we're far from okay. Felicity explained. I guess that's not a regular day for Team Arrow. Well, if you guys need anything, we're just a call away. Naruto said and she nodded. So, what's up? Do you need something? No, I called to give you an update on the encrypted data packet you sent me from the Star Labs server. Well, after nearly a month of working on it, I can tell you for certain that I can't open it for you. Felicity admitted. Really? I thought there wasn't anything you couldn't hack through. Naruto said. Oh god, how I wish that was true. Let me explain. The reason I can't break the encryption is because there's the code I need to break, it isn't completely there. She told him but saw he was confused. Sorry, allow me to elaborate. I managed to isolate and analyze the encryption on the data packet and found it to be an elaborate hexagonal Dionics encryption, which is extremely complicated. I've managed to break a few over the years, but this one in particular is unique because in order to unlock the packet, the encryption needs to be fed a specially formatted companion key. That key is another hexagonal Dionics encryption that then unlocks the other. Without that companion key, nothing I can do will unlock it. Can't you just make another one? He asked. No, the companion key is specific to this encryption. If I try to use a fake one, the encryption would detect it and erase the contents of the packet you sent me. I'm sorry, but even I can't crack this. Felicity said. Whoever made this figured out a way to circumvent the best hacking in the world. I can do a lot, but not without the last piece of the puzzle. Thanks for trying, Felicity. Let me know if you or Oliver need anything. He told her and she nodded before ending the call. Well, that was a bust. Wow, so this is where you work. Naruto heard. He turned and saw Jiraiya standing there in the doorway. You should really think about updating your security system. Naruto super sped forward and slammed Jiraiya into the wall. What are you doing here? Naruto shouted. I thought I made it clear that I have nothing else to say to you. Well, maybe I have something to say to you, kid. Jiraiya said. So that's what you can do, kid. Guess impulse wasn't so much picked for you as much as describe you. Naruto, let him go. Dr. Wells told him so. Naruto reluctantly let him go. Jiraiya fixed his collar and walked into the cortex, impressed with their setup. Whistles, wow. Not a bad setup for protecting the city. Guess it pays to work out a science building. Jiraiya said when he saw Caitlin and got a pervert glint in his eyes. And beautiful women as well. It's a pleasure to meet you, gorgeous. The name's Jiraiya. Dr. Caitlin Snow. She shook his hand but he was getting a little too touchy, so Naruto super sped forward and punched him in the head, knocking him into a wall. You're too old for her and she has a fiancé, so stop being a pervert or else I throw you out. Naruto warned him. Okay, I'm a little confused, so can someone please tell me what's going on and who this guy is? Cisco asked, pointing to the man Naruto just punched. The man Naruto just punched is Jiraiya Osuka and he's Naruto's godfather. Dr. Wells told them. Godfather? You have a godfather? Cisco asked and Naruto nodded. How come you have mentioned him before? Caitlin asked when Jiraiya got out of the wall and turned to them, seemingly fine. Because I've been gone for 3 years. Jiraiya said. And the kid has some issues to work out. Oh, please, don't get all condescending on me. I have a very good reason to be upset with you. Naruto told him. And here I thought that with age come wisdom, but you're still that bratty little kid you were when you were 12. Jiraiya said and Naruto got offended. You think I haven't changed? How the hell would you know what I've been through? You were never around. You would show up maybe 3 times a year and then head off to wherever you had to go. And when you did show up, you'd act like a giant child. I mean, you were the reason I missed 2 days of school because you took me to that amusement park while my parents were out of town. Then we spent the day at a police precinct because you got too handsy with one of the workers there. In all the years I've known you, you were never able to take anything seriously. Naruto shot back at him as Cisco, Caitlin and Dr. Wells took some steps back to avoid getting involved. This was clearly a family matter. Oh my god, would you just get over it? Sure, I'm not the best adult role model, but you've had the most fun when I'm around, and despite everything that may have happened or whatever misadventures we had, I never let anything bad happen to you. Jiraiya told him. I know I'm not perfect, but no one is. Not even your parents. Don't you mention them. You have no right to even say their names. Naruto warned him and that seemed to trigger him. Or what, kid? They meant just as much to me as they did to you. I loved your father like a son and your mother was the greatest woman I've ever met. Jiraiya shot back at him. And you did a great job showing that love. You never even showed up for the funeral. Not so much as a word from you. Naruto scolded him. Did you think that maybe it would have been a good idea to show up at their funeral and I don't know, maybe help me through the whole grieving process? You think you were the only one who was screwed up after they died? Your parents meant the world to me. I had to deal with their death on my own, and quite frankly, me being there for you would have only made it worse. You have no idea the people I've lost over my lifetime, but your parents were the only good things out of all the crap I've been through, and once they were gone I couldn't come back. You have no idea what that feels like. Jiraiya told him. I know exactly what that feels like. I had to watch them die. Naruto shouted at him, releasing all the pent-up anger and aggression he's had at Jiraiya. They may have meant the world to you, but they meant just as much to me, yet I'm still here. I'm still here every day trying to make sure their legacy is intact and finding the people responsible for their death. And where were you? Sneaking into spas to spy on women or getting thrown out of another strip club? I actually managed to find the person who killed them. Naruto. Dr. Wells called out his name to get him to stop talking, but it was too late. Once Naruto said that last sentence, he got Jiraiya's attention. Who killed them? Jiraiya asked. What do you care? I mean you. Naruto was cut off as Jiraiya grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled him close. It was like a switch had been flipped and he got as serious as a heart attack. Naruto, who killed your parents? Who was responsible for the crash? He asked. Mizuki, some enforcer of the Yakuza. Naruto told him, pushing his hands off his shoulders. And he works for Orochimaru. Jiraiya said, getting Naruto's attention that he knew that name. My god, I was right. How the hell do you know that name? Naruto asked. There's a lot you don't know about me, kid. Jiraiya told him. And I think I want to keep it that way for your own safety. It's what your parents would want. He moved to leave when Naruto put his hand against the chest, stopping him from leaving until he got his answers. You're not going anywhere until you tell me what you know. Naruto told him. Trust me, kid, you're safer off not knowing that I know. Jiraiya warned him. Bullshit. You know who I am and what I've been doing in this city. Again, I don't know how, but I can handle anything. I've dealt with people with powers and I just took down a corrupt army general. If you know anything about my parents' death, then I want to know what you know. Naruto told him. Failing that, I can lock you in a cell that you won't escape from until you tell me. You're willing to throw me into a cell to find out what I know? Jiraiya asked. 100%. Naruto replied. Jiraiya looked at him and got his first good look at the man standing before him and saw someone willing to do whatever he could to figure out the truth. Okay, fine. Jiraiya relented, stepping back as Naruto let go. The first thing you need to know is what I do for a living. What did your parents tell you about what I did for a living? I don't know. My mom said you were a writer while my dad told me you were some kind of sage or traveling hermit. Naruto replied. Well, all of that was just a cover. I used to be a cabinet intelligence and research office agent for Japan. Jiraiya told him and Naruto went wide eyes when he heard that. What's the cabinet intelligence and research office? Caitlin asked. It's Japan's equivalent to the CIA. It's their national intelligence agency. They work with other allied agencies like MI6, Mossad, and the CIA. Naruto explained. Super Brain and History Channel for the win. Funny you mention the CIA because I've been working for them for the past 20 years. I used to be an agent under the direct command of the Prime Minister, but when I moved to the States, I joined the Central Intelligence Agency and have been for the last 20 years. Jiraiya explained. I'm a damn good spy and it's why I've been gone for long periods of time. Okay, that explains some things. Continue. Naruto told him. A few years ago, your father and mother began working on a secret project. What it really was I'm not sure, but a wealthy and secretive group came to him about some kind of genetic research and your dad discovered something big. Jiraiya explained. When he realized what it was and who he really was working for, it was too late. He was caught in a corner and that's when he contacted me. Why? Dr. Wells asked. Because of who was secretly funding the project. He thought it was for a government agency, the ASA, but instead it was a group of criminals. Jiraiya told him. The 9. Naruto said, and Jiraiya was shocked he knew that. We dealt with someone who insisted that my parents' death wasn't an accident. When we did some digging, it led us to Mizuki, who said he did it on order from Orochimaru and some group he worked for called the 9. Wow, guess I was wrong, kid. You did know more than I thought, but you're wrong on one point. Orochimaru doesn't work for the 9, he's one of them. Jiraiya corrected them. Who are they? Cisco asked and Jiraiya shrugged. I don't know. Pretty much every single agency in the world denies their existence, but if you're willing to believe the rumors and legends spread by criminals, they're supposed to be a secret group that control criminal activity all over the world. The Bratva, Yakuza, Triad, even the Quadrant and the Ninth Circle, they control it all. Jiraiya theorized. How could they possibly do all that? Naruto asked. Well, your father believed it had to do with why they hired him in the first place. The genetic research the ASA was doing before they went defunct was about genetic enhancement. Jiraiya told him. Genetic enhancement as in giving people metahuman powers? Naruto asked and Jiraiya nodded with a smirk. How do you think I was able to get back up so easily after you punched me? Jiraiya asked. He walked over to the wall and yanked off a metal pipe like it was nothing before snapping it in half. You know, you could have done to something else and not break part of the wall. Cisco pointed out, feeling the pain of having to fix that later. When your father told me the truth, he gave me a syringe with the same metahuman formula he was working on for the 9. It made me a super soldier and lets me do my job a lot easier. Plus, it made me even more handsome than I was before. I may look 60 but I have the body of an Olympic athlete. Jiraiya said with a smirk. And the perverseness of an entire frat house. Naruto added. Okay, he gave you powers but what else? He said that if something were to happen to him then I needed to track down the people responsible and bring them to justice. He gave me something and said the powers he gave me would help but it's been harder than I thought. I've managed to take down dozens of Yakuza cells all over the world and managed to get a lead on where Orochimaru could be. Jiraiya told him. What did he give you? Naruto asked. Jiraiya reached into his scroll container and opened it. He reached it and pulled out an ornate Japanese smoking pipe. My dad gave you a pipe. Yeah, I don't know why. The stupid thing doesn't even work. Jiraiya told him. Naruto looked at the pipe and was confused as to why his dad would give Jiraiya this if it was important and had to do with the 9. Maybe it was a sentimental gift your father wanted him to have. Dr. Wells suggested. Yeah, but a smoking pipe. What kind of message was he trying to send? Caitlin asked. My dad doesn't smoke. He never did. Naruto told them. He looked over the pipe before making a decision. He walked over to the table and smashed it. What the hell was that, kid? Jiraiya asked as Naruto moved some of the broken pieces of glass and clay and held up a small USB drive. You didn't think the pipe has something in it? Some spy. Naruto told him as the others looked at him. In my defense, I thought it was a sentimental gift. Jiraiya defended himself. Naruto sat down at the computers and plugged in the USB drive. He opened the drive and saw it was some kind of code. So it's a thumb drive with a computer code on it. Not just any computer code. This is some serious hacking code. Cisco told him. It's a hexagonal Dionix encryption code. Naruto said. As in the same code that your father's data packet we found in the Star Labs server. Dr. Wells said. Something tells me my dad wanted you to come here with this. Naruto told Jiraiya. He brought up the encrypted data packet that his dad hid in the Star Labs server that Felicity couldn't hack. He opened it to see the encryption code which immediately began to react to the code in the thumb drive. The two codes came together like they were pieces of a puzzle and completed one another, allowing access to the data packet. He opened it to see it was all his dad's research he did for the 9 on the metahuman serum. It turns out that the serum was derived from old research the ASA did in Freeland vaccine trials that apparently had the side effect of giving certain people metahuman powers. One of the people who was given powers was the Freeland vigilante known as Black Lightning who has gone dormant for years. Naruto found the data on various serums that his father was working on and found one known as MHS9, Metahuman Serum Number 9, and saw it was designed to give a subject superhuman intelligence and he was the person, he was the subject. He was right, his rising intelligence was because his father injected him with a metahuman serum and that was the reason for his super intelligence. Jesus, what the hell was my father doing for these guys? Naruto asked. Something tells me this could explain everything. Jiraiya pointed to a video clip created 1 week before the accident. Naruto opened the video and it started off with his dad in his old lab downstairs. Minato adjusted the camera a bit before looking right at the lens. Naruto, my son, if you're watching this then Jiraiya must have reached out to you and you found the old pipe. I'm just glad I hid it in there and knew he wouldn't get rid of it. And I'm glad that you're watching this because it means that all the horrible things I've done, they won't have been nothing. If you're watching this, then your mother and I are dead. Minato said, before breathing a huge sigh of exhaustion and fear. God, I hope that it isn't the truth and I'm making this for no reason, but I know better than that. Naruto saw how hard this was for his dad and could only imagine what he must have been going through when he recorded this. If you're watching this, then I can only imagine what you must be thinking about me. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and this is biggest one. You must be wondering where your intelligence came from, and why this is happening to you. I'll try to tell you everything I know. Years ago, I approached by people who needed my help on a special genetic research project. They said they worked for the ASA, the American Security Agency, and that the project was of the utmost importance for national security. They told me that there were people who were suffering from a rare genetic disease that caused cellular degeneration and they needed someone to help make serums to combat the problem. It had only affected a small group, but they said it could spread and be a global pandemic, so, being as your mother and I wanted to help however we could. That was the day everything changed. I did my work using the samples they gave me and I managed to fix the problem, but my work had unintended consequences as a result. I managed to fix the genetic degradation, but the process also granted new, enhanced abilities to the subject. When I told them this, they said that this was what they wanted in the first place and that I needed to make more. I then released what I was working on and tried to leave the project, but by then it was too late. I did some more digging and realized I wasn't working for the ASA but a far deadlier group called the Nine. They were criminals, and if I had known who they were, I never would have gone along with the project. With my serum, the leaders of the Nine were now going to live longer and were given enhanced powers to keep their control. If I went to the police, no one would believe me and they would have killed you, so I had to do something. Minato explained, bringing up information on 9 more metahuman serums. One of their leaders, Orochimaru, was my designated handler and had his goons keep a close eye on me and my work. He ordered 9 more serums, so I decided to make my own move. I bided my time and created 10 instead. Orochimaru collected the first 8 to do God knows what with them, but I managed to buy some extra time with the last one, saying it would be the best and needed extra work. With that moment, I created Serum 9 and 10. Serum 9 was designed to grant the user superhuman intelligence gradually over time and eventually be on a scale that couldn't be measured, whereas Serum 10 would grant the user with superhuman physiology and accelerated healing, a super soldier if you will. I knew that if the 9 were to be taken down, then it needed to be enhanced people I know who could do it. I gave Serum 10 to Jiraiya and told him what I knew, and I injected you with Serum 9. Minato confirmed, so Naruto now knew his father gave him metahuman powers before the particle accelerator. God, what kind of monster I must be to submit my son to this. Oh, Dad, Naruto said. There's nothing I can do to stop the 9. So I gave Jiraiya the mission to try and avenge our deaths should something happen and find out what he could. Whatever you may think of him, Jiraiya can do this, Naruto. Minato said as Naruto looked at Jiraiya and nodded. Naruto, I can't even begin to believe what kind of monster you must think of me, and I don't blame you. Subjecting my own son to this experiment when you deserve a normal life like your mother and I. If that's what you want, then I beg of you that you find it. Leave all this behind if that's your choice. But if you choose to follow this and see where this goes, I can only hope that the serum I gave you is enough to even the playing field and give you what you need to stop the 9 and maybe save the world from what they have planned. No matter the mistakes your mother and I made, I know that you will rise above them all and correct them. Because what is and always will be my greatest creation, is you. I love you, son, never forget that. Minato cried some tears and smiled before ending the video. Not a single sound could be heard after the video ending until some sniffling came and teardrops fell onto the desk. Naruto was crying from the revelation and hearing his dad's final message. He quickly stood up and walked over to the far wall to get some space. Caitlin wanted to run over to comfort him, but Jiraiya stopped her. No, let him be, he told her. Naruto took one deep breath and wiped his eyes before turning to Jiraiya, his eyes a little bloodshot from the crying. What did you learn about Orochimaru? Naruto asked. That he's making one final pit stop trip in the US to arrange some last-minute details before he's gone for good. Starling City, Jiraiya told him. He plans to leave in 5 days. Well, lucky for you, I know some people who can help us with that. Naruto told him. Naruto, your father wanted you to have a normal life and walk away from this. Dr. Wells said to him. But he also said it was my choice. My shot at a normal life died a long time ago and I'm not going to let my father's death be in vain. He gave me my super intelligence but he didn't know I would also have other powers. Naruto vibrated his hands and generated a few blips of lightning. This more than evens the odds. We're gonna find Orochimaru, and he gonna pay for what he's done. Naruto said in anger as his eyes began flickering with electricity and momentarily glowed red. Edge of Starling City. At the edge of Starling City at a massive and expensive mansion, numerous men in black and red suits were guarding the perimeter. A van pulled up the road and parked by the front door. One of the men got out and opened the passenger side door only to yank out 4 men who were bound, gagged, and blindfolded. The prisoners were moved inside and taken down to the basement, which was an elaborate torture dungeon with a computer monitor system in the far corner. The prisoners were brought to the center of the room and their blindfolds were removed to see they were screwed. There were dozens of men armed with guns or other weapons, so there was no way out, and if they tried, they'd be shot dead. The guards then stepped aside and bowed their heads as 2 men walked into the room and stood before the prisoners. He was wearing an elaborate and fancy purple suit which seemed to draw attention, his very pale skin, long black hair, and reptile-like eyes. This was Orochimaru, the White Snake and one of the leaders of the 9. Just being around him made your skin crawl, and one look at his face you could tell that he derived pleasure from another person's pain. Now, I'm quite disappointed. Orochimaru said. Last time I checked, our arrangement was that you and your organizations were allowed to operate in this city so long as they kept up tribute to the Yakuza, yet it seems all of you have seemed to forget that. One of the prisoners yelled into his gag, but all you could hear was muffles. The muffling got on Orochimaru's nerves, so he decided to have some fun. The sound of bone cracking and cartilage bending could be heard as Orochimaru seemed to morph his body into the stuff of nightmares. A long forked tongue wrapped itself around the neck of the prisoner and he was yanked away from the others, who all began to panic as they heard the screams of terror and pain of their friend. His pain soon ended, and the sound of the cracking stopped, leaving Orochimaru completely fine and normal and the prisoner nowhere to be found. He should have changed his cologne. Rather musty, Orochimaru said, picking his teeth with a finger. Anyway, I think it's safe to say that your replacements will remember the agreement that was arranged, so we have no need for you. 3 of his men came forward with blades, ready to slice the prisoners' throats, only for Orochimaru to stop them. Wait, perhaps letting my new protege get used to his new abilities is a better idea. Orochimaru motioned to the person standing behind him. Gaara, if you wouldn't mind. A red-haired man about Naruto's age walked into the light. He was wearing black boots, gray pants, and a long-sleeve crimson coat with a small sand-colored gourd on his back. Gaara was a good person, so it was odd to see him work for a madman like Orochimaru, but there was more to the story and it seemed he might not be in control of his actions. And that would because of the special collar device around his neck and the fact that his eyes were grayed over instead of his regular green. Of course, Lord Orochimaru. Gaara replied in a monotone, almost robotic voice. He held his hands out and the cork on his gourd popped open and sand began to spill out and move in the air like it had a mind of its own. It then moved towards the men. All that was heard was screams of pain and the squelch of blood and flesh being destroyed. Oh, how fun this is! Orochimaru said with a gleefully evil grin on his face.